It's time for Twig This Week in Google. Jeff Jarvis is here. Paris Martineau is here. We're going to talk about, of course, our top story, the New York Times suing Microsoft and OpenAI, saying they're stealing our content. But are they really? I'll make a case for keeping your hands off of AI. No regulation at all. Anil Dash makes a case for the internet getting weird again in 2024, and why you might want to pay attention to how much you're making on those app-based sites like Airbnb. You're now going to be reported to the IRS. It's all coming up next. This Week at Google.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twig.
This is Twig, This Week in Google, episode 749, recorded Wednesday, January 3rd, 2024. A well-regulated Jart team. This episode of This Week in Google brought to you by Babbel, the language learning app that actually works. Babbel uses quick 10-minute lessons designed by over 150 language experts so you can start speaking a new language in as little as 3 weeks. Babbel's built with science-backed cognitive tools like spaced repetition and interactive lessons, and it's created to help you build real-world conversations so you can learn how to order food, ask for directions, and speak to merchants. It's easy. Babbel also teaches, and I love this, context, traditions, the culture of the language that you're learning. I'm learning Spanish right now. I studied French earlier. It's just fantastic, from self-study app lessons to podcasts, even live classes, which is great for conversational speaking. Babbel has a wide range of learning experiences for learners of all ages based on level and your time commitment. That's one of the things I love about Babbel. It's just a few minutes a day if I want. 15 hours with Babbel is equal to 1 university semester. Plus, all of Babbel's 14 language courses are backed by their 20-day money-back guarantee. Now, I'm a lifetime member of Babbel because I love it so much, but we've got a special limited-time deal. If you're new to Babbel, right now get 55% off your Babbel subscription. This is only for listeners. You have to go to babbel.com/twig. 55% off at babbel.com/twig. babbel.com/twig. Rules and restrictions apply. It's time for Twig This Week in Google, the show where we wear funny glasses and talk about Google. Hello, Paris Martineau. You see, I wore my specs. Yours are handmade.
I was going to say, I don't know what you're talking about. These glasses are decidedly serious.
Yeah,
nothing funny about
Nothing funny about those. Jeff Jarvis is not wearing funny glasses either.
They didn't send me the memo. I'm so hurt.
Yeah, he's just wearing your John Lennon, your usual John Lennon glasses.
Yeah.
Jeff is the Leonard Tao Professor for Journalistic Innovation at the Craig Newmark Graduate School of Journalism at the City University of New York, Emeritus. We have to keep playing that through August because we paid for the singers. So we'll keep playing that. And then Paris is, of course, at The Information, where she does great work. Still working on that big story that you can't tell us about?
I am.
Okay, good.
Watch the internet, guys.
When it breaks, you'll let us know, right?
I will.
You'll be the first to tell us. So I usually wear contacts. I wear glasses, but I usually wear contacts on the show. But I thought, I got some fun glasses, and I thought Paris and I now can talk about our glasses. These glasses, which really make me look like Elliot Gould in Ocean's 11, or maybe Larry Bud Melman, I'm not sure which.
You do seem like you're going to do a heist.
They're, for those of you listening, big, thick black glasses, kind of like Michael Caine might wear. So, but these are from a company called Vinyl Eyes. They're made out of old records. And
that makes sense, because I was about to say they have some sort of reflection that you're seeing.
That's the grooves.
With the lights that is like a record.
It's the grooves of the record. As I move my face around, there they are.
You need to put a needle on it and see what the little bits are.
Well, you do.
Okay, so each model has a different name. This is called Fleetwood, so I'm figuring it's Fleetwood Mac. Could be the Rumors album. Could be Tusk. I don't know.
It's true.
They also have an AC, S-E-E-D-C version, which I figure is old AC/DC records. So isn't that a good idea? So I'm doing my part to keep the earth green.
That's super
by
cool.
wearing an old Fleetwood Mac album on my face.
Because no one would ever have use for that Fleetwood Mac vinyl. There's nowhere else it could go.
We have two, not one, but two vinyl record stores in Petaluma alone.
Oh, you would.
It's the hippest thing, have a vinyl. I don't know. All right.
Do either of you guys have record players?
No. Do you? I think you would.
I do. Yes.
Yeah, you're a Brooklyn hipster.
I mean,
of course
that goes
you have
without
one.
saying.
Yeah.
I got my wife one for Christmas 2 years ago. She has all her albums downstairs. Yeah. I thought she's played it once, but she hasn't.
I just I don't want to ever have to move albums again. That is such a pain.
Yeah, I don't have that many. I have more of a concern with moving all of my books. But
books are bad too.
That's just unnecessary.
I stuffed everything, my albums, my books, and everything into an iPhone. I just when I move, I put it in my pocket and I'm gone. Nothing, no boxes.
You put your 27 phones in your pocket and you're ready to go.
Well, there's a disadvantage. Yes, having so many phones is not a good thing. How
many phone numbers do you have?
Well, it's funny. We did a little clean out during the holiday season. We went down to Verizon. And,
a clean out of your phone numbers?
Yeah. Went down to Verizon.
I'm selling my Verizon stock now.
Yeah, said, hey, I want to close out my account. Believe it.
Close it.
Close it. I'm going to have to work through all of them slowly. I still have an AT&T account with no AT&T SIMs or numbers or anything, but I have an account. So, and I'm paying money. So there must be something going on. So that's the next. But see, honestly, they make it so hard to cancel. You actually have to go to the store. And we got to the Verizon store. The guy says, well, you can't do it here. I said, well, where can we do it? He said, you have to go on the line on the phone and call them. But
that's the torture.
The manager was good. He said, but I will walk you through it. I will expedite. So he says, okay, dial this number. I dial it. He says, okay, immediately press 1. I said, okay. He says, as soon as somebody starts talking, press 1 again. I said, okay. And it did. It went right through to tech support, and it was much. So credit to the manager at the Verizon store in Petaluma. It was very, very nice of him. He could have. We explained it. Something went wrong. The signals. Apparently, they must have lost a tower in Petaluma because it used to have very strong 5G signals, and now not.
So what do you use?
But how many phone numbers did you have on your Verizon plan?
Let me put it this way. I wanted to get, you can get an eSIM. My new car, I can get an eSIM for it. I wanted to get eSIM and said, no, you can't. You have too many numbers. So I don't know what the limit is, but there is actually a limit. No, sorry.
He thinks you have a huge family.
Yeah, you have too many. You have too many numbers. You can't get another.
You just walk out to a stretch limo full of children.
This is my family. What are you talking about? All right. So you had a nice holiday. We were talking about Paris's New Year's Eve party. Actually, New Year's Eve.
New Year's Eve.
Eve
Very
party.
important. Yeah,
Sounds
New Year's
wonderful.
Eve. It's the day before the New Year, and it's a great holiday to celebrate with your friends.
Nice.
Although I guess not for the next couple of years because it's been good.
It's been the weekend
recently.
Yeah,
because it's been the weekend, but starting next
Tuesday.
year, New Year's Eve will fall on a work day, which is not as fun.
Not nearly as fun. And Jeff, did you do anything for the holidays?
So I was angry when the neighbors' fireworks woke me up at midnight on New Year's Eve. Yeah, that's it. I'm an old guy.
Yeah.
Old.
Did you go out and shake your fist at the lawn?
No, that takes too much energy.
That's fair.
I just cursed.
You just thought bad thoughts.
Yeah, exactly. What?
So the big story, we talked a little bit about it on Windows Weekly this week. The New York Times is suing Microsoft and OpenAI, saying, you bad people, your AI systems are widespread copying our stories, and that's copyright infringement. Tellingly, the folks at the Times have asked for a jury. They've demanded, in the terms of the plea, a jury trial.
Is it their right alone to do that?
Yeah, I think
Does OpenAI also have?
Yeah,
OpenAI being the defendant, I think would have more of a right to say.
I think that I guess the judge will rule. A judge will rule, but I think that it is typically the plaintiff who demands. I don't know, though.
Really?
No, because remember, Donald Trump was complaining about not having a trial in the New York case, and the judge pointed out that his attorneys had specifically not asked for a jury. So Yeah, I think either side probably can ask for it. Anyway, I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. We should get Kathy Gillis on. Mike Masnick wrote about this and said the New York Times.
It's just classic Masnick.
He said the New York Times really should think about what they're asking for because this could bite them on the behind.
Yes.
Yeah. The New York Times, he points out, very commonly will notice a story in another journal and then launch their own investigation from it sometimes without credit. And he says, if you can sue OpenAI for taking your material and training an AI on it, what's to stop those other journals from suing you? The New York Times lawsuit, he says, against OpenAI would open up the New York Times to all sorts of lawsuits should it win. But to me, honestly, that isn't even the issue. I really think that from my point of view, and by the way, I got in a little fight with Paul Thurrott, who said, as representing creators, the New York Times fighting the good fight. Creators ought to sue AI for using their content.
So I went on CBC to talk about this, and my argument, and Paris made fun of me saying, well, you can't stay away from a camera for more than a week, can you?
Okay, it was very funny because it was a Wednesday right when we record this show that you were like, I'm going to be live.
I've got to have my airtime.
What am I doing?
So my contention is that the machine has a right to learn, and that it doesn't record it. And we'll go into, I think, the details about some of the Times allegations about specific segments in a minute. But if the machine can't learn, if the machine can't do what we do, then it's a problem. And also on line 68, it is the heritage of our industry that we go back to, and I think I mentioned on the show before, that newspapers had scissors editors who was their job to cut up newspapers and put them in. Copyright did not cover newspapers at all at first, or magazines. Even when it did, it didn't cover news per se. It only covered kind of special things with authors. And so it is a bit, I think Mike's right. And you're right, Leo, it's not the core issue. But I think it's disingenuous of the New York Times to act as if they don't do this every damn day.
I love this paragraph from Mike's article. In the end, though, the crux of this lawsuit is the same as all the others. And he's talking about Sarah Silverman's lawsuit, George R.R. Martin's lawsuit against OpenAI. It's a false belief that reading something, whether by a human or a machine, somehow implicates copyright. This is false. If the courts or the legislature decide otherwise, it would upset pretty much all of the history of copyright and create some significant real-world problems. Right. Now, Paul said that in the New York Times complaint, which runs 64 pages, that they provided ample examples of ChatGPT quoting them verbatim.
I thought they got them too, but Masnick has some very good points. So there's another one I put up on line 66, which has a demonstration. One of the examples is a quote from a review of Guy Fieri's New York restaurant, and as whoever it is who wrote this said,
Kevin A. Bryan,
Kevin A. Bryan,
theorem on Twitter.
That quote was all over the internet. It was quoted again and again and again and again. A, so it wasn't hard to get it from more than one place. And then B, what Masnick points out, I don't mean to sound impersonal, what Mike points out is that the way the queries were done, it led OpenAI down the path so that basically the only response could have been the words that were next to the words that were next to the words next to words in that case.
Yeah, so that's what I without reading the entire plea, that was my belief, was that the New York Times had carefully crafted the prompts.
Oh, yes.
And my issue, and what I told Paul is, you're not asserting, I hope, and as the Times is, that somebody would read or query ChatGPT in lieu of reading the New York Times. That they would say, oh, I don't have to buy the Times because I can get everything I want from ChatGPT, because they're just going to quote the Times.
Well, they are arguing that insofar as there's a...
That's the same argument that Google was used against Google.
Exactly, made against Google. And Mike points out that I don't know if it was in the complaint per se, but they whine about Wirecutter, Mike's example is I go to Wirecutter and I ask, what's the best blank? I get the answer. That's all I need is the brand and the model number from search. Yes, that's true. I don't go to the New York Times to read the whole thing. And yes, the New York Times doesn't then get the affiliate money, but God didn't give it to them. Sorry, guys. You're involved in an information ecosystem that you, the New York Times, take advantage of every single day, where information once known is free to use. The hot news doctrine, the Associated Press years ago tried to have a hot news doctrine.
I remember this.
Which was to say that there were two things that went on. One was that they said that there was a period of time, it was never established, but about 12 hours or a day, where if you broke the story when Paris has her big story out, it's hers for a day. Nobody can even mention it because it's Paris's, right? And that the courts didn't go for that. They did it first. They didn't go for that. And then when radio came along, newspapers tried to do the same thing, and they told radio that they weren't allowed to discuss any story until 12 hours after it happened. That also went, by the way. But the same kind of sacred language that's in the New York Times complaint, which Mike makes fun of at great length, is, we're so special. We're the New York Times. We're saving democracy.
We put so much money into it.
Language.
Yeah. So I want to hear what you have to say about it, Paris.
Yes.
So I have other thoughts, though.
I mean, I'm curious about your thoughts. I think that the arguments that you guys have outlined are correct. I think that at first, you see the argument the Times is presenting as, people shouldn't be able to scrape our news and use it to train these systems. But I think, as we've just discussed, the actual issue at hand is a lot more complicated than that. And also the idea that anyone is going to be using Chat GPT to get a line-by-line read of a Guy Fieri review, and that is going to
by the way,
democracy.
A 12-year-old Guy Fieri review.
Yes, which was talked about like crazy because it was so unfair to Fieri.
Yeah.
People screamed about it and quoted it at length all over.
Yeah.
Sorry, Paris, go ahead.
No, I mean, I think, what do you guys think is going to happen in the courts with this?
Here's my issue. First of all, I think it's telling that the New York Times demanded a jury trial because they know a judge will, as judges already have, throw this out on the face of it. It's fair use. The judges have already ruled again and again that AI has the right to scrape the internet and generate its large language models from that content that's publicly available, and it's not a violation of copyright. I think that's going to always be the case with a judge. Jury might be different. And I think it's one of the reasons this pleading is so emotional is they're playing to a prospective jury saying, you don't want the New York Times to fail, do you? But here's my big thing now that I am an AI accelerationist.
Yes.
My big thing is, so I think Paul Thurrott said, and I think I agree, that really this is a negotiation ploy, as it usually is. That the Times just wants to sue them so that OpenAI will give them some money. And unfortunately, both Google and OpenAI have already done this with other journals, and as a result have created this slippery slope. I don't think they should ever do this because I think really this is the worst kind of regulatory capture. Because the future of AI really, in my opinion, and we have a Yann LeCun article we can talk about in Wired, an interview in Wired, but I agree with him where he says really the real future, the future you want with AI is open. That's what OpenAI was supposed to be. You want open source AI. You want everybody to be able to develop with it, use it, create stuff with it. You don't want the big tech companies to be the gatekeepers. You don't want Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Apple, anybody to own AI. You don't want them to be the gatekeepers. You want AI to be everywhere. And I truly believe that. I think that's really important. So no matter what the upshot of this case is, if the New York Times wins, if OpenAI ends up paying them, it means that it makes it harder for the open source AIs to build and succeed. So it's going to have a bad outcome. The only possible good outcome is if the jury, and I don't think this will happen, but if a jury says, no, this is fair use, go away, New York Times, then that would open it up for everybody.
Do you think, though, that companies like OpenAI should be able to use anyone's material for anything?
If it's publicly on the internet, they can learn from it. They can train from it. Not quote it, not steal it.
Not quote it.
And this is the thing. New
If
York
it's
Times
behind a paywall and it's not metered, should they be able to scrape that?
Well, that's an interesting one. If OpenAI pays for one subscription to the New York Times and then scrapes all the content,
Right, exactly.
That's an
all I
interesting question.
So I had a conversation, if I could add to this, I had a conversation this week with Rich Skrenta, who started Topics years ago, and I didn't know it. Rich is now the executive director of the Common Crawl Foundation.
Which
really
Mike mentions in this, by the way.
Mike mentions in this.
Yeah.
And what Mike also says in his story is that the New York Times, and I just find this, there's a larger issue for the ethics and morals of journalism and society here. The New York Times, Mike says, has demanded that Common Crawl take off all of the content that it got from the New York Times. Now, OpenAI and company have done a robots.txt for this case, which is fine. But the New York Times is talking respectively in the past to take it off.
What is Common Crawl? Is it like archive.org? Is it like the Internet Archive?
It's different to this extent. All it does is it scrapes huge amounts of data from the open web, open web. Mainly it was intended for academics, so that there was a source of study, which is invaluable, and it's open source and it's free and it's gigantic. He told me how long it would take to download it. It's like, forever. Huge thing. Whereas Internet Archive saves the actual pages and the images and all that. This is text only. It was for the purposes of academic research as a foundation. Well, so along come LLMs and hello, Glorioski, look at that. What a great resource, right? So they're using it and they're all happy to use it. But now you have all these organizations like Reddit has very publicly said, well, we don't want anybody to scrape us because we think there's a pot of gold there. And the problem in the case of Reddit is, well, you didn't make the stuff, Reddit. Your users did.
Right.
And so everybody thinks that there's some pot of gold here and they all own something. And I think that we've got to have a conversation in journalism and media about our obligation to the public information ecosystem. If everything ends up behind the paywall, which is their right to do, that's fine. If everything remains unscrapable or you're doomed in a court case, then the only thing that's left out there for people and machines to learn from without going bankrupt, and for open source efforts and for small journalists and so on, is crap and propaganda and lies.
But how are those original creators of the news content supposed to survive in a media ecosystem where their work has to be essentially fair use and publicly available for free?
No, they can put it behind a paywall. And
it just has to also be accessible by OpenAI.
No.
In fact, I would say the good compromise here is if it is behind a paywall, OpenAI can't get it. It should only be publicly accessible material. For instance, your articles are behind the paywall on the information. They shouldn't be able to scrape the information.
However, I do think OpenAI, it's different from Books 3. Books 3 did not obviously buy every book in Books 3.
Many of those are pirated. And that's what Sarah Silverman's et al.'s objection was, well, you're reading our books by pirating them.
But in this case, you really can subscribe to the New York Times. Now, the New York Times can put in terms of use.
That would be a solution,
Paris. Right? Yeah. Paris, the bigger question is that the business model of news is badly broken. And I think that when we see ourselves in a position where we think all of our value is resident in this thing we call content, we're screwed because content's a commodity, because machines can now make it. Owning content, thinking content is special is not where the value is. The information, what's special is that you do reporting others don't do. And people who find value in that in their jobs in many cases, and me and my podcast, choose to subscribe for a lot of money. I was glad there was a sale on it. I got it cheaper. Thank you very much, Jessica. And if you're really special and if you're really good, you can do that. But so much of journalism, look at the Guy Fieri story. So much of journalism is about us copying each other to get our own pages and our own page views and our own likes and our own clicks and our own ad pennies. And the amount of unique, original journalism that occurs, like at the information, is a lot rarer than we admit. So we're trying to support a whole infrastructure of copying each other to get our own SEO and clicks. So I think we've got to have an honest audit of where the real value is in journalism and where it isn't.
I almost feel like
a lot of the New York Times. I love the New York Times. I pay for the New York Times. I criticize the New York Times because it's the best and I want it to be better. But a lot of the New York Times has nothing to do with news, has nothing to do with improving the democracy. It's fluff to attract attention, which is an old business model that's gone away. Sorry.
I also think that there is a society, just as, and we've talked about this before, just as in the early days of the internet, we didn't tax it. We were reluctant to put a lot of government regulation on it because we didn't know where it was going. We wanted it to grow, and that worked out. Admittedly, there have been problems, but we know what those are. But I think it was the right choice. I think we need to do the same thing with AI. That I really believe that AI has a lot of potential, but we don't know exactly what it's going to be. And I think that it would be problematic if it's old media trying to hold back new media. And I think that would be problematic. And it's
Paris,
bad
do you
for
see
the
any
future.
difference? Do you see any difference in learning from materials to just teach the machine to speak as a skill versus
I think that
versus giving back answers from current content that are reliable because they're current content? Do you see a split there? I kind of do.
I think I see a difference there, but I think that ultimately the hesitation I have around this generally comes from the fact that we're ultimately talking about for-profit companies that are building models to then sell use of that model to people. And I think that there should be a robust public debate and I guess legal debate around whether or not those companies can benefit from other people's work. I think that a good example is artists. You know?
I love that idea because, and that's, by the way, why OpenAI originally was a nonprofit. It wasn't tenable. But if you wrote an exemption for open source AI work and said, but if you're going to charge for it, well, then you got to license it. I'm okay with that. In fact, I think that's the best possibility because I don't want Microsoft and Google and the others to dominate AI. I think that would be a horrible mistake.
So let me ask you a related question. So the information report, I thought it was the information. Oh, I guess it wasn't, but somebody reported, I thought it was the information, that OpenAI's annual revenue reportedly tops...
information. You're talking about another story that actually aggregated our work, which is the very phenomenon we're talking about right now.
Well, I put in the wrong link. Right.
Here it is. Exclusive, by the way. OpenAI's annualized revenue. Exclusive. OpenAI's annualized revenue tops $1.6 billion. And then
here's
the rest
my
of the headline is as customers shrug off CEO drama. That's a great story. Maria Heater, Amira Frade, and Stephanie Palazzolo wrote that. So your colleagues.
So that went up at what time, Leo?
That went up 7 a.m. on New Year's Eve.
Right. So on New Year's Day at -3 is 11 a.m. Silicon Angle put up the story, which is the one I accidentally put in the rundown, saying the information reported.
Yeah. Well, we do that too, though.
Illegal.
I got to point out.
I mean, that's this whole show, basically.
It's this whole show. Because of that, I'm cognizant of that. I always, you notice I just read their names and I quoted it. And I try to give credit back, but honestly, that's another reason I have some concern about this lawsuit because we don't do any reporting. I don't do any reporting. You guys do. Certainly you do, Paris.
Paris does it. Yeah.
I don't know what you do, Jeff, but
no, I don't know.
I don't do any.
I
do zero.
Jeff's out there.
I do zero reporting. The entire extent of my work is to read all this stuff, digest it, and editorialize on it, talk about it. That's what we do.
AI.
So I think I'm in the same boat as OpenAI.
You are. But here's my question, though. Who's paying OpenAI $1.6 billion?
I am. I give them $20 a month.
But geez, at $20 a month, how many people are doing this?
That's a lot.
It's not giving honest answers. What is it? How are they getting that much revenue? I don't get it.
I mean, they're getting it from. I guess I would assume, obviously this is not reporting based, but I would assume that actual users like Leo are probably a small percentage of that.
Yes.
And corporate clients
There's
are
business. Yeah.
a large percentage.
What are they getting?
Well, I can tell you one thing that I get that is worth it. That actually, because by the way, Microsoft has put ChatGPT 4 out for free on iPhone and Android. You can get the Bing Chat app and do everything. But what I like and what I use and what is worth $20 a month for me is the expert systems I've created as GPTs. This is, by the way, I think in the long run, this is what's going to happen is, you had this app store revolution with Apple's iPhone. I think you're about to have an app revolution with AI where because these all have open APIs. You can license it. I think that's where the majority of money, by the way, comes from, is licensing the API. I have a couple of really useful expert systems, and this was more just
in that
for me
case
to learn
it's
something.
content that you have uploaded. OpenAI didn't provide it. You provided it.
So this is how this works, and I'll show you in the configuration. It's both. So without an LLM, there's nothing here to do, right?
Right.
I'll go into my Common Lisper, which is the name of this little expert system I created. Without the LLM, I could upload, as I have, all this stuff, but they wouldn't be able to put it together into a expert. So there's both the corpus of data, but it's on top of a large model that is generated by reading the New York Times and the information and whatever else it can to create an LLM. But what I've told the LLM is don't hallucinate. Only give me answers that come from, I now have 11 books in here. I'm doing this with Common Lisp, and one of the advantages of doing it with Common Lisp is it's so old that there's a lot of public domain PDFs of classic books by Paul Graham and Peter Norvig. The entire Common Lisp spec is available as a PDF online. A number of great books. So I just put all those things. I already had them as PDFs. I just put them all into this GPT, and it's really been useful. I mean, it's incredible. I can ask it a question that I would normally go and search the web for. I would search, Common Lisp for loop, and then have to sift through the Google results. Now I can actually ask it to explain it to me. Here, I'll show you. Explain loops. Now it knows it's Common Lisp, so I don't even have to say in Common Lisp. It knows that. And so it's going to give me some sample code. It's going to describe this. This is like having a teacher. And it's all expert information that comes directly from these books. There's no hallucination.
Did you buy all those books?
Some of them are public domain. Peter Norvig's book is public domain. Some I bought, yeah. But all of them are in the public domain at this point. Look at Lisp.
Is there anything that stops you from offering this to others?
Well, yes. Interestingly, lately, this is a change in ChatGPT. Public actions required valid privacy policy URLs. So I have to create
what does that mean?
I don't know, but I have to create I stopped. I make it only me now because it's only for me. But in theory, you could, if you wanted to have a little business, create expert system GP. Let's say I am a BMW repair shop. And I have every manual for every BMW ever made. If I can get that to an expert system, that's of huge value. Now, this is the question. This is why the New York Times is worried. Can I then sell that expert system?
That's what I'm asking, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
What do you think the answer is, Leo?
Well, I don't know what the answer is. I have an Emacs expert, which I don't distribute because one of the things in the corpus here is a book by a great guy named Mickey Peterson that I bought. I have a PDF of. I was able to upload it, Mastering Emacs, but it's not public domain. He sells it. So I would feel funny about selling this expert system. I don't have a problem with using it for myself. By the way, this is why open source is also so important, is I should be able to do this all on my own system with my own LLM, with my own database, of my own corpus of knowledge, not sell it, but just for myself. That's where you're going to get some really interesting things happening. Yeah, somebody's saying in our Discord, take all of Steve Gibson's notes and put them into an expert system. In fact, I started doing that. I put all the transcripts of Steve's shows all his show notes into an expert system. Now you have an expert Steve Gibson. Now here's a really interesting question. That's all content Steve has made as part of our podcast. He's, published it publicly. It's like everything Steve ever said or knows. Does Steve have rights to that LLM, to that GPT?
What's the difference between it's that? All right, so let's just play with it for a second. So I can go to the web and I can read all that stuff laboriously myself, which would take a very long time. I could hire someone, a librarian, to go do that for me.
Well, and to some degree, a search engine
to do that.
A search engine also does
a search engine,
that, right?
Exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Right. I can search for a word.
If I search through all of the transcripts, which people do all the time, for a term, I want to know more about ransomware and get all of those references. A
smarter search engine.
That's not so different from a chat GPT saying, summarizing it in a paragraph. That's the only real difference. It's the same content. I don't know. I don't know. This is a very interesting
this is the
conundrum.
first time your analogy between this and the accelerationist potential of the internet has ever really clicked for me. So I'll give you that.
Say more.
I think just in the sense that what you're describing, it is a tool that can make existing processes happen at a much faster rate.
More than
technology already to, go through all of Steve's podcast episodes, read the notes of what he's said, and get up to date on certain topics already exists. It would be laborious, but putting all of that into a GPT, having it summarize it for me, isn't inherently all that different.
And here's the real point. It's a societal good.
Yes, it is.
If we can take the knowledge of the world and make it available, this is Google's mission statement, right? To put the information of the world at your fingertips. If we could do it even better in such a way that it's useful so that you can query a GPT about security and get good responses from it, yes, I understand the New York Times or Steve Gibson or The Information or Paris Martineau might say, but wait, that's my knowledge. But from a societal point of view, that's a huge societal benefit. And this is the point of copyright in a nutshell, is to give both sides a benefit, to give the creator the right to make money off of it, patent, same thing, but ultimately to make it into the public domain at some point. Right now it's life plus 70, which is nuts, but ultimately make it into the public domain so that we can all benefit from it. And I think that's the thing I really want to focus on. Even as a creator,
fair use
by
is
the way.
part of that.
Yes,
fair
even
use
as a
is part of that,
creator.
because once I've learned it, that is my knowledge. You can't take it away from me. You can't play, the Men in Black pen against my head. But here's another thing. Right when I met Stephen Johnson originally about Notebook LM, what we speculated about is why shouldn't the New York Times be offering that as a service on their own?
They should make a New York Times GPT. Exactly.
They should. A publisher of a book should make, and this is something, I said in what would Google do? We have to update the book. And then in Gutenberg parentheses, I recanted that and said, no, let the book be alone. But I'll go bad again. A book publisher should be able to put up a book in such a way that you can query it.
There you go.
And you can ask it questions. But they don't do that because they instead say, no, this is ours. You have to buy it in the format we give it to you and use it in that way. There's going to be no way to protect
be a little bit of a
this.
devil's advocate here. There was a good question in the chat from Andrew saying, the thing is, if we, are out there building all of our Steve GPTs, like someday, who will be Steve?
Oh, somebody always has to be Steve.
AI do X and Y and Z and everything for us. Are we not making any experts in these key fields anymore?
Of course not. There's always going to be a Paris Martineau and a Steve Gibson. You're going to still have value because you'll still be able to get value out of what you do because you're creating the original content. People will still subscribe to the information.
Well, Paris is worried.
Well, I understand, maybe I should be too. But I
understand it's a little bit of. I think
we're less
frankly, the class of commentary as a class of journalism, which is very important and valid. It's what we're doing right here. Is more of what should be concerned. Who is going to?
Yeah, we're the ones to be replaced.
Listening to this,
right? You have to create. Yes, you know what? It would be trivial, frankly, and it will happen in a couple of years to do this show without any of us.
But it won't have our jokes about your weird glasses falling down your nose.
Actually,
AI
probably
will
will.
never have
That'd be the
top
easiest
tier
part.
humor like that.
Yeah. How do you keep your glasses from sliding down your nose?
Yeah,
I don't. They slide down my face all the time, and it annoys me.
In the first show, Paris, I thought that was an affectation. I thought this was the look. I
Nope.
thought that was the Paris.
It's
no,
just
they're just heavy.
I really can't. I need to get them tightened. It's a problem.
No, I got them tight. I think it's just the nature. Partly is I don't have a lump in my nose. You see, I have a perfect profile.
Oh, poor you.
So there's nothing to hold it up. You see what I'm saying?
You should get one of those lumps installed.
Yeah, lump installed. but when I wear glasses like you, Jeff, with the pads, right, that press in the nose, that keeps
hurts.
it. Well,
to get used to.
but it keeps it from sliding down.
It keeps, yeah. Well, also these are incredibly light. These are titanium.
Oh, mine are
secret.
light. My other ones are light too. And these because I don't know, because they are heavy, I guess. Yeah.
So in the Gutenberg parenthesis, pardon me, I've got to get a plug in once an hour. I think that's twice now. I quote the fight between Kevin Kelly and John Updike in 2006. So Kevin Kelly said just what you just said, Leo. Oh, you're going to make it new ways. You're going to do new things. It's going to be open. It's going to be wonderful. And every book is linkable and everything is out there, right? And Updike went crazy at Book Expo. And he called that a pretty grisly scenario. He said, books traditionally have edges. In the electronic anthill, where are the edges? So booksellers, he said, defend your lonely forts. And he said, I don't want to perform for my lunch. I want to write for my lunch. And I get that.
I get it too, but this is why we don't ask people from the previous generation what they think of the next big thing, because they never really understand what it's going to be, and their natural aversion to it, because it's a change, is going to get in the way of it actually happening. And you know what? There may be disruptions. There almost certainly will be. The internet caused huge disruptions in businesses, including the New York Times business, and they're desperately scrambling to find a way to survive. Many newspapers have gone out of business, but I wouldn't want to stop progress to save newspapers any more than I wanted to stop TV to save radio. It's just or stop cars to save buggy whips.
Right,
Not
and
all
the New York
progress
Times
is
went after
good.
radio exactly the same way.
Yes.
As they're going against OpenAI now.
Yes. Not all
That too
progress
is in
is
the
good,
Gutenberg
but it is the nature of life, and we have to move forward. We cannot freeze this in aspic. And so to ask John Updike, who I deeply respect, by the way, guess what? There's people still read his novels. They love his novels. His novels have not gone away.
Books still have edges.
Absolutely. So the problem wasn't that, I understand his concern, but he was from another generation. He didn't know any more than I did at the time what was going to happen. And so to ask him is to freeze progress in the form that somebody from an earlier generation thinks it should be frozen. And that's a clear mistake. And that's my exact point with OpenAI or AI in general is we don't know. And so it would be...
We see it with music.
It would be wrong for us at any point in this to say, oh, no, you can't let that happen, because we just don't know.
OpenAI is many have said this, it's the Napster of content. And Napster opened the door, and yes, all the law came out. But what happened in the end is the album got decommissioned, deorbited, right? Is that what the word we use? And
That's the word.
But there are far more creators being able to be heard right now in far more genres than were ever the case.
And I want to point out, Peter Gabriel just released an album that is an album that is in sequence. And the way he did it is he released a cut at the full moon of every month in the year 2023 in album order. And on December 1st, released the full album. He preserved the album. He found a way to do it. I mean, and by the way, I was really pissed because I was having a hard time buying the album. I wanted to give him my $17 on iTunes, and Apple doesn't want you to buy albums. They want you to subscribe forever to Apple Music. So they make it very difficult to find a way to buy them. But Jason Snell, who is a friend, the host of MacBreak Weekly, and a fan of Peter Gabriel, said, oh, no, Peter sells all his stuff on Bandcamp.
Yeah, Bandcamp is where they're at.
You go to Bandcamp, and you can still buy an album. So here's a guy, he's 70-something, He's an earlier generation of musician who believed in the form of albums and has preserved it. It doesn't. I think John Updike didn't go away. Peter Gabriel didn't go away. But they should not be allowed to say.
And there's a lot more John Updikes and Peter Gabriels out there to be had who couldn't make it through the gauntlet before.
That's true too.
I mean, okay, I agree, but I will also say the current state of the music industry, which is streaming based, is not very hospitable for new artists who are trying to make a living. Getting pennies from Spotify a month,
I agree,
is not.
Well, we agree
going to
considering
produce
what they're doing to podcasts.
Gabriel.
You're right.
Yeah.
I agree. But so go to Bandcamp and sell
big
your
companies
album.
still mess it up.
Yeah.
And so, in the book that I have coming out next year, which I'm not plugging yet, I argue that what the mistake that I made was that I gave too much to companies. I gave too much to Twitter. I gave too much to Facebook. And this is the lesson Leo taught me and beat it into my head when it came to Mastodon, is that we've got to honor the open structures of the internet.
And it's not
and where
always
the
going to be
are there. I don't know.
It's not always going to be the easiest way or the obvious way or maybe even the most profitable way. But there is also to be considered the interests of society. And I think it is in society's interest that we allow this stuff to develop. We keep an eye on it. There will be bad things coming out of AI. We know that. But there could be so many good things. It's very much like the internet. There's so many good things possible as well. So
I really want a smash cut of all of your different takes on
I know.
AI over the last year and how it evolved. I think that would be pretty good. We could get AI on that.
In the words of Henry David
That's true,
Thoreau,
Paris.
Foolish consistency is the hobgoblin of small minds. Am I wrong? Actually, it was Ralph Waldo Emerson. But other than that.
But never mind. You hallucinated.
Yeah, humans hallucinate a lot more than
goblins.
machines. Hobgoblin. Yeah, that's a good word, isn't it?
It's really good. I can give you more hobgoblin references.
That was fun. That was really fun.
It was a good discussion.
I think it's a really exciting area, and it's one of the reasons, as I've said many times, we have a job to do. And so this is why I'm not worried about AI. Because you and I and have a job to do, Paris. And Jeff, I guess, have a job to do.
Until August?
Until August. No, we have a job to do, which is to understand this and explain it and also advocate. I mean, that's why I'm not a pure journalist. We advocate. We do our best. And I've done this my whole career since the early 90s because I love technology, but I also feel very strongly that that there are certain paths we should avoid, certain paths. I've always been a big believer in open versus proprietary, and I've always flogged that. Now that's my point of view. Maybe people don't agree with me. There's plenty of them, but that's part of our job, and I think we'll have a job to do. And AI cannot advocate, and AI can only give you information, and then it's up to
not
us.
well,
and often not well. But then, me too. Emerson, Thoreau. It's all, the same.
Or Michael Cohen.
Michael Cohen. It all's the same. Yeah, that's right. Michael Cohen used Bard.
He did it too.
To write his pleading.
He's a doofus. But I also could see how in Bard now appears right next to the Google search bar. And it takes the place of the old Wikipedia information up there. And so you ask a question in the search, and there is information right there in Bard. And if you're not paying attention to the news, which he doesn't accept about himself, I could see the confusion. Now, his lawyer is another case.
He's not a great.
Yeah, the context is Michael Cohen says that he unwittingly passed along to his attorney bogus artificial intelligence generated legal case citations that he got online before they were submitted to a judge, which is pretty funny, honestly.
It is.
Okay.
It's crazy, though, that they ended up cited as part of written arguments by his attorney.
It's just
that
his
is
attorney.
The issue.
His attorney didn't do his job, and then the attorney. Everybody was throwing everybody else under the bus.
Well, I mean, if you're the attorney for Michael Cohen, you've got a lot of things on your plate.
You're a busy guy. Honestly, I mean, I don't know enough about the job that these people do, but I bet you there is some time pressure, and you're working really hard to pull these things together. And maybe you should have checked. But
Michael doesn't have access to Westlaw anymore because he's not a lawyer anymore.
Oh, that's right. He isn't a lawyer, is he? He's been disbarred. All right.
Right.
Well, we'll talk about Bard, actually, when we come back. This is This Week in Google, the show where we cover
and Bard is a Google product.
Bard is a Google
Yeah, here
product.
we are. We're
See?
getting into Google before the ad break. That's huge.
How about that? We're going to talk about Bard. It's getting close. So if you want to use it in your trial, stay tuned. But first, a word from our sponsor. I love these guys, Collide. And why do I love Collide? Because they love end users. When you go through airport security, you know that line where the TSA agents check your ID and the other line where a machine scans your bag? Okay, try to picture this because this is a great analogy for what happens in enterprise security. It's not passengers and luggage, it's end users and it's their devices. Right now, these days, most companies are pretty good at the first part where they check user identity, you know? Perhaps you're using Okta to do that. It's great. It's strong authentication. The problem is there's the assumption you authenticate the user, oh, their bags are fine. But that's not necessarily the case. User devices can roll right through that authentication. They're not getting inspected. In fact, right now, 47% of companies allow unmanaged, untrusted devices right in to access their data. That means an employee can log in from a laptop that has, let's say, its firewall turned off, hasn't been updated in 6 months. Or worse, a laptop might belong to a bad actor using employee credentials. They may be able to get in, but the laptop got in with them, and you are in trouble. Collide solves this device trust problem. It ensures that no device can log into your Okta-protected apps unless the device passes your security checks. Plus, and this is great too, you can use Collide on devices without MDM. Your Linux fleet, contractor devices, you can't force them to put MDM on their devices. Every BYOD phone and laptop in the company, you know the executive's going to bring that phone in, but it still works. Collide.com/twig. Watch a demo, see how it works. KOLIDE.com/twig. You need this. Collide. We thank Collide for supporting This Week in Google. You want to see the Bard? Bard is inching towards launch. I think that's an interesting choice of words from 9 to 5 Google. Inching towards apparently where it's imminent, right? This is from APK Insight, where they take applications, files, the APKs, and decompile them and analyze them. Inside, they found a little pop-up that's an assistant with Bard tab right there in the Google app. This is designed to fully replace the existing Google Assistant on supported Android devices. So if right now you've got your Pixel and, you know, you go, hey, you know who, it's going to be, Bard's going to be in there in some way. The company's also planning to prominently place the assistant with Bard experience on the Discover page of the Google Search app. Here is from 9 to 5 Google and APK Insight, the video, what appears to be ways to quickly switch between performing a normal Google search and getting help from AI. See, Michael Cohen's going to love this. This
will be huge for him.
This is going to be huge. So there's the assistant. Hi, I'm assistant with Bard. Oh, like that? Or here's, like you're in, what would you like to do today? You type or you talk. Hello there. Can you tell me what's on the image, please? I don't know where Santa came in.
It said Santa.
It did.
It did say Santa.
Yeah. And then it's looking at the screen, and this is Bard. APK Insight says for now it's not clear whether this is intended to be a permanent fixture of Discover tab, or maybe it's just a one-time only, little ad for checking out Assistant with Bard. Then there's a guy named Dylan Roussel who managed to enable the actual pop-up window. I love people. It's hysterical. They dig and they dig, and shows us how that's going to look to use Bard to submit questions. So we're getting closer and closer. I have to say, I pay $20, as I mentioned, a month to have Chat GPT on my phone, and on a new iPhone, I'm able to use their action button to launch it and talk to Chat GPT and have it respond back. I showed you that a few weeks ago. Increasingly, now we're getting, I think it's really interesting that Google looks like it might want to add Bard to the regular Google Assistant.
So do you also pay for Anthropic to do the work of the company?
I think we must, right? We use Anthropic's AI Claude, which, by the way, my informant deep within the industry said, "Oh, those guys at Anthropic, they're jerks." He says,
"Oh, your long walk guy."
My long walk guy. He said,
"Your long walk with Sam Altman."
Yeah. He said, "Those are the guys who were so concerned about safety that they left Google because they were so worried about safety." He says, "So Anthropic's created this safe AI." He was very dismissive of it, but I have to say it's been very useful.
But you
for
use
us.
it. But here's my question.
Yeah. I'm sure we pay for it. Anthony, do we pay for that? Yeah, we must.
What do you use it for?
Will that be as good as free?
We use it to do show notes.
Show notes.
We also, I believe, we use it to chop up the show into little TikTok-like vertical videos, which we then...
That's a different tool.
Oh, what tool is that?
That's Podium.
Podium. We use Podium.
Not Podium. I'm sorry. Podium is what we use for the transcripts and stuff like that.
These are all tools you pay for, I presume.
All AI tools we pay for.
But here's my question.
We use a lot of
blog
them.
posts. We make blog posts out of Claude as well.
Claude makes blog posts.
Yeah, but
wait a minute,
here's
it
my
writes
question.
them?
At some point.
Well, we edit them as humans, but yeah, it'll take a show. It'll listen to the whole show. It'll read the transcript of the show, and then give us a summary.
Let Claude do it.
This is
No, I don't wanna do it.
historically.
Let Claude
No,
do
I'll
it.
tell you, this is historically a huge problem for podcasts because Google doesn't search the audio. They always said they were going to, and they never really did.
No,
So there is no discoverability in a podcast. So we've always said what we really should do is a blog post for every episode. But I'm not going to do that. None of our hosts wanted to do that. That's just, that's adding insult to injury. So the AIs now take this show, they transcribe it, and they generate an article from it. And then the producers look at it and clean it up. Where is that? Is that in the blog on twit.tv?
Yep.
So there's actually a lot of stuff in here that we got to make this more discoverable. These are transcripts. There's the newsletter there. Micah Sargent's holiday gift ideas. Micah probably wrote that. The transcripts are created by Podium. Oh, here you go. Look at this. Remember when we had Steven Johnson on the show? So we fed that show to an AI.
To his AI? Different AI.
No, different AI. To who do we use for this? Claude? To Claude.
Yeah, Claude.
Claude wrote this. And then Anthony Nielsen, our AI guru, but it's sometimes the producer, sometimes Anthony, went through it, made sure it was legit. How much do we pay for this feature?
Which feature is this?
Huh?
What are we looking at?
This is Claude writing the blog post. We don't pay for that. Claude just does it for free?
That's my question.
That's free.
Pretty soon, everything you mentioned is going to be available for free because they're all going to be competing. And you're not going to be paying for it.
But the internet was like that too. Look, it's even got a
It's
quote.
going to be free for 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, and then we'll have to all pay for it.
$25 a month.
And
or
we'll be
probably
pissed.
$100 a month because of inflation.
And we'll be pissed. This
Sound like the New York
is pretty
Times,
good.
Paris.
This is a summary of what Steven said. It's got a quote from Steven. But Anthony,
Paris,
how much
you and a
cleanup
pound.
did you have to do on this, Anthony?
That one, I don't know, it's 90%.
It's almost there.
Yeah.
He just touches it up a little bit. And make sure there's no lies. But
He
there
takes out my names and my quotes. That's what he does.
Yeah, we want to take everything from Jeff. That's his instruction.
Yeah.
And then we were going to use it for show notes, right? With the emoji bullet points. Have we started doing that yet or no?
Well, not emoji bullet points.
I like the emoji bullet points.
Patrick said it would break things, so.
Oh, it would break things. Oh, well, that's not good.
But
So we don't use, but it does make the show notes here.
it depends on the producer.
Okay. And what do we use? What's the tool do we pay for that feature?
Podium, yes.
Okay.
Oh no, we just run that through Claude.
Claude is free and free?
No.
No.
Well, you have a limited usage in it,
Okay. So if we use it more than a certain amount, we would have to pay for
I
it.
have a paid account that I use, but it's
Oh, so you're paying for it.
$20 a month.
Yeah, I'm paying $20 for ChatGPT. So $20. And then Podium is much more expensive, I'm sure. Does transcriptions. And then what is the thing we
TikTok?
use to make the
The TikToks?
TikToks.
Opus.pro.
And that we pay for.
Yeah. And that's like, it's, for an episode, it's like, $5 and it'll like generate, 30 clips that you could kind of pull from and edit. And
it does it also adds the text, right?
And it'll automatically do all the cuts.
There's one of our shows. There's you, Paris.
Hey, there's me.
That's cool. Never noticed that.
So, that is cool. There's Scott Galloway, I think. Yeah. Ugh. There's Young and Profiting. This is great because honestly, we don't have the manpower. My son Henry, he looks at our TikTok and says, "Dad, would you just fire whoever's doing that?" I said, "We can't. It's an AI.
It's a human machine."
He said,
"It's free."
He said, "Dad, that's terrible." I said, "It's not terrible. It's what?" He said, "Look, let me do it." I said, "No, because I can't pay you what you would need to get paid to do this." But his contention, and of course, he's been very successful on TikTok and Insta with millions of followers. But his contention is it's not really viral, creating really, truly viral stuff.
I will say,
not being on the platform at all, like having a
better than nothing.
It's better than not being on the platform at all, but it's not probably going to get people to check out Twit from TikTok.
But nothing we would do that, right? That's the problem.
I think it would. I think it's a really popular format on TikTok to kind of have cuts from podcasts by kind of going back and forth through it. And it does drive subscribers. I mean, that's how Dropout, that streaming service I've talked about before, has gotten the vast majority of their subscribers of the last couple of years is from TikTok. But that would also require hiring someone. And that's not
all Henry had to do was say, "Well, how many views were on that?" 57. How many followers do you have? 556. How many likes do you have total? Yeah, 1,700. So
I mean, we recently just started.
You don't have to defend it. You don't have to defend it.
I mean,
he's a snob because. But I'll tell you what the real thing is, and he doesn't admit this. He knows it in his heart of hearts. The real audience is not humans. The real audience is the TikTok algorithm. Because the way you actually get views on TikTok is by TikTok surfacing it in the For You tab. So until you get the TikTok algorithm, not a human, but the algorithm to notice you, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, but that's from human,
We don't know how the TikTok algorithm works. I don't think it's just from human attention. I think TikTok's looking for certain kinds of content.
Okay, I'm sending you guys an example on Discord of a podcast that I can't speak to the quality of any of these videos. I just know that I've seen this in my feed beforehand, and it is kind of talking heads, people recording a podcast, but they do frame the shots in a way, and their videos have
3.4 million followers.
Yeah.
The Basement Yard.
I have no idea what it's about, but listen.
So this looks kind of like what we do, where it's a vertical. You've got, the captions. The problem is we have to say something interesting.
Yeah.
I think we say a lot of interesting things. I think you just got to think of what's TikTokable.
Yeah, you have to really play to the algorithm. Now, maybe that is ultimately playing to the people. And there's a lot of competition.
Which does take us to line 93.
Wow. Okay, now this is the point, just a little behind the scenes here for everybody, where I have to decide before looking if it is worth completely stopping what we were just talking about and go to line 93, which could be Jeff Jarvis and a TikTok with a monkey, or we just don't. No one knows.
Oh wow, this is. And it is a TikTok.
Yes,
it is a TikTok, and it is relevant.
You see,
it is relevant.
It's relevant, but was it worth? Was it worth?
He's scolding me, people.
Changing the entire thrust. Here we go. We're doing it. When guys start to podcast for no reason, it is
really.
Podcast police. Put the mics down. Put the mics down. Don't even think about it.
This episode is over, fellas. We're the podcast police.
We're a task force that stops white guys from starting podcasts for no reason. Anything you say can and will be used against you. Subscribe to the Patreon. All right, enough.
It's become a real problem here in Los Angeles. These guys reuse mics, share mics, podcast in the morning, podcast at night. Hell, half the time they don't realize the mic's not even plugged in. Poor guy.
It's pretty good.
Yes.
Damn it, they fled.
okay. Well, thanks for derailing the entire conversation with somebody else's TikTok. Okay.
Paris laughed.
I did laugh. How many views did that TikTok have?
Oh,
Yeah,
God,
how many?
millions.
I can
Millions.
see that it has 634,000 likes.
Yeah. It's ridiculous. So this is why I honestly don't feel like we should try to compete on TikTok. Now, I thought we did a good job with your little Gale.com thing on TikTok. Did you see that? What we did with that?
I didn't, but I do follow you on TikTok.
All right, here's this is from an episode
Oh
of Twig.
God, I'm having to watch.
Pick of the week this week is one of my colleagues accidentally mistyped Gmail the other day.
Okay, so Henry would say at
Okay,
this point, it took too long. I've flipped. I've flipped up. I'm gone.
I flipped, and also we got to get rid of the little on the bottom third of the TikTok is a subscribe to Twit sort of banner
you can't
thing.
click.
I got to get rid of that.
And you can't
Sorry.
click it.
You can't click.
It's not clickable. It's just a thing.
This is great for AI.
And I
think
by the way,
we're doing a
as
really
an
good job.
example, I bet you anything that the TikTok algorithm sees that and goes, nah, we're not going to put that on the For You page.
Probably.
It's stuff like that. It has nothing to do with how many people saw it or whether they liked it or clicked it or said anything. Henry says it doesn't matter how many people like you. That is not part of the algorithm. And I think the algorithm does things like, I don't like the way that's laid out.
Probably
Not on gmail.com, but on Gale.com.
And it should be illegal to make me listen to myself on this show.
I know, isn't that painful? I hate it. I know what you mean.
It does have a different
white background.
Tom.
Welcome to Gale.com.
I think this was a really good segment and a great thing for a TikTok. But of course it's not going to succeed on TikTok because it's not going to grab you. You're going to swipe.
Yeah, I think it would probably require some of your son's fast editing to make it work.
It needs knife work.
We need the
need
crackling sound of bacon.
We need knife work and frying
Which
bacon.
takes time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Look at this poor guy. I got to tell you, he's doing very well, but he works morning till night making these stupid sandwiches nobody eats. He's just, I said, Henry, how come you not be fat? He says, I don't eat that stuff. I said, well, so he's doing it in his mom's kitchen. Actually, he's moved back down to LA, but he was doing it in his mom's kitchen. Do you give it to mom? He says, no, she doesn't want that. In fact, Jennifer said, usually I have to do Uber Eats. I can't get into the kitchen. And then I said, well, who do you give it to? You never give it to me. He said, yeah, I have friends. I don't understand. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. It's hard. Let's put it this way. It's hard to go viral. There's no magic thing. But one of the tricks, really, at least Henry's trick is you gotta, your audience is an audience of one and it's a machine. It's the TikTok algorithm. Don't you think that's true?
Speaking of, yeah, I mean, absolutely.
Aren't
It's
you
the
glad
algorithm.
we
And
did
the
that
algorithm is
podcast
fickle.
police segment, Jeff? That really forwarded the conversation.
I thought it did.
Line 93.
I think it did. Line 93, guys. Speaking of which, I think we could talk about line 98, which we talked about a bit before the show.
Now you've got
But-
Paris doing it.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm going to lean in.
He hates this.
This from
You
the New
remember
York
weeks
Post.
ago, you may have heard
Yes.
of the TikTok tunnel girl.
Yes.
A spiritual cousin of the TikTok eel guy. She was a woman who was digging a series of tunnels underneath her Virginia home. She's been ordered to stop doing that because it's against the law.
How long did she go and how far did she get digging these tunnels?
Definitely longer than a year, because the video I played for you guys a couple of weeks ago was a 1-year recap of her tunnels, and they're cavernous.
And
She had to
there's
get a mine car set up in there.
Apparently pools of water. There's this.
Yeah,
now
there's
is
a
she an
storm
engineer?
shelter.
She is an engineer.
She's a software engineer.
Oh, that doesn't count. They don't teach you.
Does not count.
In
Does
your
not
computer
count.
science program how to keep the roof of a tunnel from collapsing in on you. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Is that a true?
That's not actual Barack Obama.
He didn't really
who's
say
commenting that,
you
no.
are my Beyonce
Hero?
Okay. Yeah. No.
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
Okay. All right. That's somebody. It doesn't even look like Barack Obama. It just
It's
like
someone on the internet lying about who they are.
But for some reason, the New York Post decided to include it.
Yeah. So it was an unpermitted tunnel digging project in
Yes.
her suburban Washington, D.C. home. And it's now been slapped with a bunch of potential violations.
What I'm
And
curious is, did she go under neighbor's property? She had to have. Otherwise, it seems bigger than that.
She was building, if I recall correctly,
She says
it
it was a storm
shelter.
Shelter, yeah. All right, now we've moved on to something else.
Now we see, yeah, okay. So at least you have to scold Paris like you scolded me.
No.
Yeah, I wanted us. If one of us is going to get in trouble, both of us need to get.
Yeah, exactly.
Solidarity.
Both kids have to, right?
Yeah.
We stick together, we kids.
Oh, she did post a video of her getting shut down by the police, which is great content, I'm sure. Sorry,
we'll leave
Leo.
that
We
as
can
an
continue with the show.
exercise for the listener. Go to TikTok. What is her TikTok handle?
Oh, I have no idea.
Okay. Perfect.
Search Tunnel Girl. She'll
Tunnel
come
Girl.
up, I'm
TikTok
sure.
Tunnel Girl. Yeah. The OnePlus Buds 3. No, I don't want to do a story about that.
Yeah, no, you put this on. This is the folks. You playing at home. This was the first thing on the rundown. Number one story.
Yeah,
on
Leo
the
makes a
and
list.
He's going after us for going down the line 98.
But you're making
The number one thing on Leo's pin board is OnePlus Buds 3 reportedly get price cut.
Oh, wow.
What? What does that mean?
Wait to talk about that. That'll be a real conversation starter.
These are not in any particular order. In fact, they are in chronological order. So as you can see, that story was bookmarked yesterday.
So it's old, too.
Yeah, January 2nd.
You bust us, we bust you.
Well,
boss.
I'm just saying, I haven't put this in any order. You're assuming that it's the first line is the most important. No, that's not true. In fact, I didn't lead with this, did I? I led with line
you led with what
65.
was down in our part of the thing. Yeah.
Well, that should have been in there too. No, it is. It's actually line 51 as well in my area, but it was in the AI area. Anyway.
Oh, that's right. It was, yes.
Yeah, a little too much inside baseball in this show.
So what do you have to say about those on OnePlus Buds, Leo?
Did their price actually end up getting cut?
Fascinating tidbits about them.
Deleting now.
That
I think
changes.
this is the first time we've shamed Leo to removing a row of the Google sheet.
This is now a mutual shaming society. We're all shaming
Like the Howard
one another.
Stern show.
Yeah. Apps will be reporting your earnings to tax authorities starting this week. How about that one? If you make money with an Airbnb or Etsy or eBay.
I'm surprised they haven't been.
I am too.
Don't you have to give them a what do you call it, a 9?
1099 or something? Yeah.
Well, no, that's what they give you. What do you have to give them, a W-9?
A W-9. Right.
Yeah, I'm surprised you don't have to
Doesn't
provide
mean
them
you
with
have to
W-9.
pay income tax on it. In fact, the 9 to 5 Max says whether or not you have to pay tax on this income depends on an often complex set of rules which vary by country. But this is a global agreement, so it's not just in the U.S. The 38 members of the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development have all agreed, including the U.S., U.K., many European countries, have all agreed that these platforms have really got to tell us if you're making money.
Here's the hard part of that. So I wrote a piece for some Spanish magazine, and they're going to pay 300 euros. Fine, I'll take the 300 euros. But oh my God, I have to get IRS documents to prove that I'm an American, to not get the Spanish tax taken out. Oy.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
Did you see Anil Dash's? By the way, I've been attempting to get a hold of Anil, but he's been on the show many times before in the past. His Rolling Stone article entitled "The Internet is About to Get Weird Again."
I think that's weird as in Austin weird, good weird.
He means
right?
good weird.
Yeah.
Anil is serial entrepreneur. He was Gina Trapani's boss. I think that's how, and we used to have him on the show frequently. I've known Anil for years, probably a decade or more.
Oh, I've known him for probably longer than you have because we go way back in blogging land.
But yeah, he's a proto blogger. Yeah.
Yeah.
His point, which is I like it, is that 2024 is going to be a watershed year for the internet. That the big tech companies, the tech giants, thanks to the EU primarily, but somewhat to the FTC, are being forced to hold their noses and embrace mandated changes. Like I'm reading his prose here, like opening up their devices to allow alternate app stores to provide apps to consumers. Back in the U.S., a shocking judgment in Epic Games lawsuit against Google leaves us with the promise that Android phones might be opening up in a similar way. Twitter's slide into irrelevance and extremism has hastened the explosive growth of a whole new host of newer social networks, including he's a Mastodon user, and he mentions Mastodon and Blue Sky and Threads. He says, and I think this is an interesting point of view, that he sees it going back somewhat to its roots, where
That's my hope.
Yeah, I hope he's right. Yeah, and we're going to still try to get him on because I'd love to hear what he thinks about this. He says, I'm not a Pollyanna about the fact that there's still going to be lots of horrible things on the internet and that too many of the tycoons who rule the tech industry are trying to make bad things worse. There's not going to be some new killer app that displaces Google or Facebook or Twitter with a love-powered alternative, but that's because there shouldn't be. And Neil Dash writes, there should be lots of different human-scale alternative experiences on the internet that offer up home-cooked, locally grown, ethically sourced code-to-table alternatives to the factory farm junk food of the internet, and they should be weird. This is what Kevin Marks has been saying. The indie web.
That's what you've been saying.
It's what I've been saying.
You've been saying it.
And honestly, this also applies to our previous conversation. That's why I don't want big tech to run AI. I want AI to be open and available and weird. AI should be weird. That's where innovation happens, is at the interface. So I like this article in the Rolling Stone. It's kind of an opinion piece, I guess, but Anil Dash. Yeah, it's labeled commentary. Yeah. So we'll try to get Anil on.
I didn't expect to find it in Rolling Stone. I was glad for
It's interesting. Well, Rolling Stone has become really a kind of a political opinion journal more than anything.
It's cheaper than reporting.
I mean, yeah, since Noah Shachtman took over, it's become more Daily Beastie.
And what is his background again? I'm trying to remember.
He was
he bought it, right?
Chief of Daily Beast for a while. Okay. And before that, he was at Wired and somewhere else.
Yeah, Rolling Stone, which I think Jan Wenner sold it.
Yeah, but it's not. He doesn't.
He doesn't own it. He was just installed as the head of it.
Right.
It's Penske.
Penske. That's who owns it.
Penske has brought up just all kinds of entertainment media, trade and retail.
Which is bizarre because Penske, to me, is a motor racing company.
Well, he's like the son.
Well, now Penske is a media mogul.
Now he is,
and I recently invested $100 million into Vox at a time when that was already having issues.
So a big change. So do you think the Rolling Stone is more like the Daily Beast now that Shachtman is in charge?
Oh, I mean, editorial-wise, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, Noah is very good at what he does, and he smartly decided that the Daily Beast model was working and what Rolling Stone was doing before was not, and brought over a lot of the smartest political writers and reporters from the Daily Beast to Rolling Stone.
Interesting.
In addition to kind of revamping their cultural coverage.
Yeah. He was
If you go to pmc.com, I don't want to derail you or anything, Leo.
If you go
to pmc.com, there will be a TikTok on the website, and you should click on that.
Of a woman digging a tunnel under Rolling Stone magazine.
But if you go to the brands pull down.
Billboard, Art News, Variety, Women's Wear Daily,
South by Southwest,
The Hollywood Reporter, the Golden Globe Awards.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Dick Clark Productions. So Rockin' New Year's Eve and the Golden Globes, which are coming up this weekend, are both owned by Penske. Art Forum, the American Music Awards, the Robb Report. This is a bizarre, we are in a weird media landscape. Deadline. So all the Hollywood reporting is now under one roof, which is a little weird. Variety, The Hollywood Reporter, even Deadline.
The former competitors are all there at the same place. Yep.
Isn't that interesting? The Boy Genius Report. Wow. The Streamy Awards. Well,
Mr. Penske, wouldn't you like a tech podcast company?
He doesn't seem to have any podcasts. He's just got a lot of stuff.
Well, they now own 20% of Vox Media, which is which has a big part of
it. Does have a lot of
it being a podcasting company.
So he's the son of the race car driver Penske, or they own motor oil or something. What was? I know the name from motor racing.
Jay Penske is a son of.
It's a truck rental company. Is that related?
So Jay is 44 years old.
Yeah, he's the scion. So Roger Penske, who was the race car guy,
right?
Team Penske owner Roger Penske. He bought the trucking company. So that's a really interesting.
It really is. And Jay just wanted to go into this, and Jay got a lot of money from the Saudis.
Oh, interesting.
To be able to bankroll all of this.
He co-founded Firefly Mobile.
Really?
Remember that?
Yeah.
Wow.
The Firefly mobile phone for children?
So this is really interesting. So Roger Penske, who is an IndyCar driver, took his renown as a race car driver to found the Penske Corporation. Wow.
Oh.
Very interesting. And
that wasn't a bad detour then. That was an okay
Well, it's
detour.
a weird detour, but
all right. Well,
but I brought it up because I said, what's happened to the Rolling Stone? And this is all from Anil Dash's interesting piece. All right, let's take a little break because I'm breathless. You're listening to This Week in Google with the chortling Anderson Cooper style Jeff Jarvis, and all we need is a cat cafe, and we've got it made. And Paris Martin of the Information.
Yeah,
where's your
gotta
cat?
Find some cats. I was about to say my cat is clearly sleeping on her duties. She's got to be on the screen for this.
I think we're talking to a new sponsor that makes one of those kitty litters that rotates.
Ooh.
Do you want that?
An automatic cat cleaner?
Yeah.
Those are nice.
Yeah. Okay.
They're very expensive. They're high quality things.
All right.
They're
get
a lot
right
of technology
on that there.
I love the hearing off mic. Yeah. I want one too.
Yeah, everybody wants one.
Automatic cat cleaners for everyone.
It's huge. Have you ever heard of Zulily?
No, what is that?
I feel like I know that name. I think they were a big e-commerce business. Right. They are going out of business. 13 years. They started in Seattle. They're shutting down their operations because they say they couldn't compete with Amazon.
Known for its aggressive advertising.
Yeah. Zulily. You know, it might be before your time, Paris, because this was, in a different era, like 5 years ago.
Yeah, 5 years ago.
5 years ago, Zulily. I don't know why I know that name, but I do. So that's why I bookmarked that one.
It's kind of the Shein of its time? Is that
I think so. Kind of, yeah. Google has decided, we're going to throw in the towel and we're going to settle. In 2020, they were sued. You may remember this because the so-called incognito mode really wasn't privacy forward. Google said, well, you should have known that. We had a little disclaimer saying everybody could see what you're doing anyway. Why didn't you know that?
Which they did.
They did.
Yeah.
We made fun of it at the time.
Yeah. Florida resident and a pair of California residents accused Google of violating wiretap laws. They also said the sites used Google Analytics or Ad Manager to collect information from the browser, even in incognito mode, including web page content, device data, and IP address. The plaintiffs also accused Google of taking Chrome users' private browsing activity and then associating it with their already existing profiles. In other words, you were far from incognito. Google says, wait a minute, we put a warning in there that said your activity could still be visible to the websites you visit. Well, Judge Gonzalez rejected Google's bid for summary judgment in August, saying, you never really told users data collection continued even in incognito mode. Google has finally said, filed yesterday saying, all right, we're settling, which could well cost them. I've seen numbers in the billions.
Well, if you settle, don't you know what it costs you?
Well, Google and the plaintiffs have agreed to terms that will result in the litigation being dismissed. The agreement will be presented to the court by the end of January, the court giving final approval. This Ars Technica article does not have a dollar amount, but I think I did see some with, was it $20 billion?
I thought it was hundreds of millions.
Hundreds of millions? All right, let me see if I can find it.
I thought so. I don't know. I could be wrong. I could be wrong. I could be hallucinating, as they say.
$5 billion.
$5 billion, jeez.
according to NPR.
Your evil voice.
$5 billion. Well, okay, wait a minute. They agreed to settle a $5 billion lawsuit.
Oh.
But for how much? Terms weren't disclosed. The suit originally sought $5 billion on behalf of users.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I've been in that seat before. We don't know, I guess.
I was about to say, I mean, it's rare for settlement amounts to be made public in these sort of cases.
That's right. That's true. And usually, in fact, there's a clause that says you can't.
It's a big public thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Except when was it a class action suit?
Yes.
In that case, the class.
Oh, wait a minute. Was it? Actually,
amount.
wait a minute. I'm sorry. I don't know if it was.
It is a class action. So
it is.
Yeah, actually.
So yeah, they'll say we all get the 50 cents each, or whatever. But that's another loss for Google in the courts. It's not been a good few months for Google.
So what when you used Incognito, or you use it still, what does it protect? Do we know?
It's basically the spouse mode. It protects somebody with access. It doesn't add the sites you visit to your history. It prevents somebody in your home from going to your browser and looking at what you looked at. It does not, in fact, in any other way hide what you do. So I think there was some merit in this. I mean, and by the way, that's true of all private browsing modes, I think. Let's see. Here's what Firefox says. This is in there, what they don't call it incognito. They call it private browsing. I'm in a private browsing window. It says Firefox clears your search and browsing history when you close all private windows, but this doesn't make you anonymous. It only basically clears your history is what it really does.
So Google says it won't save your browsing history, cookies, and site data, information entered in forms. Your activity might still be visible to websites you visit, your employer or school.
Everyone.
Your internet service provider, certainly. That's always been there, though, I think.
Google's always had the disclaimer, just as Firefox had. But the name, it's like Tesla's autopilot. The name kind of implies incognito, and then they have a little spy with sunglasses on and a hat. Implies that you're traveling around invisibly. I've told people this for years, but I think it's a very common misconception just from the name. So, and Google, this will be one of those where they admit no wrongdoing, but here, have some money.
That money will ultimately end up being $7 per person.
Oh, if that.
I think
the lawyers is the only people who get rich on this.
Yeah.
I found this out from our local NBC affiliate in California.
This is when you were watching the local news.
I was watching the local news during the rockin' New Year's Eve. Yeah, let me just get my hair here because I want to make sure I look good.
Leo is combing his hair while staring intently in the camera.
It's for the TikTok. California law enforcement authorities are told that if they pull over an autonomous vehicle without a driver, they may not write a ticket.
What?
Who would the ticket go to?
Well, that's part of the problem, right? When driverless cars break the rules of the road, there's not much the law enforcement can do about it. Tickets can only be written in California if there's an actual driver in the car. That's not true in all states, by the way. In some states, you can ticket the manufacturer or the operator of the driverless vehicle.
Wait, you skipped over a step here. How does a cop pull over a driverless car?
Yeah. Wait, how does the car know to pull over?
Well, I'm sure you turn on I'm sure that the car looks for flashing lights and sirens and pulls over
to get out of the way.
When you write that into the code,
how does the car know that it's being pulled over?
Yeah.
Well, just like you would. It sees the flashing lights in its rear view mirror.
I'm hoping it's not me.
Stash the joint under the seat. We got to pull over. So in Texas, according to the Texas Transportation Code, the owner of a driverless car is considered the operator, whether they're in the car or not.
Right.
In Arizona, same thing. The owner of the vehicle may be issued a traffic citation or other penalty if the vehicle fails to comply with traffic or motor vehicle laws. But in California, no. which is just seems like a loophole, perhaps.
It does.
I never really even thought of. I just assumed that the car would pull over if you turned on the flashers and
Well, you
pull
should
over, pull over.
Everyone should pull over when there's flashes behind you to let the cop car go by.
Or
yes,
or
well, but
I don't know. Has anybody, show of hands, been in a Waymo and been pulled over? I mean, the thing is, it doesn't happen that often because these guys are pretty good. I mean, if there was one thing a Waymo can do is not break.
They're cautious.
They're very cautious. They're like grandma. Anyway, Cruise,
really
of course,
good point,
is practically out of business because of trouble with the San Francisco DMV and so forth. So it's Waymo at this point, right?
But wait a minute, who should be liable for a traffic accident?
You saying the software or
the
the
passenger?
What you're saying?
I don't know. Well, okay, so there's somebody driving or something. Whatever is driving is liable.
Yeah. So if it's an AI, who gets the ticket?
The company that
Elon
owns the car,
Okay, so
Elon
Tesla.
or whoever owns the car. I mean, sometimes these cars are driven by somebody back at the home office, more often apparently than we know. But so that's a driver, just because there's not somebody in the driver's seat. And yes, Waymo, if nobody else, Waymo, because it's their software that violated the law. You got to be able to punish them. I mean, I'm sure that's the question the California legislature asked.
Yeah, this is probably why there's no real law.
This is why there's no law. It's
Yeah.
like, well, what I don't know. I think it's, but it's got to be the company that owns the car.
It's got to be, but they're also the ones who put the money into the politicians and stuff. So,
Oh, you think it's a profit motive?
I mean, isn't everything in America almost pretty much a profit motive?
Who's yes.
Oh, the young people are just
They're so cynical, aren't they?
nihilistic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm in my 40s,
Just like
but okay.
Paris.
He's in his 40s.
You're a young person. Take it. Take the
us, you're a
sale,
young
man.
person, but
Take the sale.
They're all
Won't be there
begging to
for
be called a
long.
young person.
I used to be a wunderkind. Can you believe it?
I know. I call John Ashley, one of our
He used
producers.
to be the most eligible man in San Francisco.
Well, only one of
It says
100.
that on the card. It says it right here. Formerly one of San Francisco's 100 most eligible bachelors. Says it right there. In print
Right
too
there.
fine to read.
Formerly.
Lived in tomato fields. El Jefe to Taco
Lived
Bell.
in tomato fields?
Don't get, no, we're not going to go there. This goes back to a story I was from years ago talking about Campbell's tomato soup.
Right.
Okay.
I lived in Cinnaminson, New Jersey. She asked, Leo.
Fair enough.
In a development that was built on the old Campbell's tomato fields. That's all there is to the
So
story.
did you grow up smelling the sickly sweet smell of tomatoes
No,
wafting
because it was
from
all
the streets?
gone.
It was actually a great story about, I didn't realize this, but Campbell's made so much tomato soup, they actually had to buy up New Jersey and grow tomatoes there. So, well, the only place they could really do it. And so they owned huge farms in New Jersey.
Cinnaminson and Moorestown.
Yeah.
Cinnaminson spelled Cinnamison.
It's the kind of article you read in, Metal Floss, or actually it was in the,
It was
close. It was in the Smithsonian Magazine. How Campbell's soup turned New Jersey into a tomato growing state. And they actually made a special kind of tomato.
It's from Modern Farmer.
This is
I'm
from
working
Modern
with the folks at
Farmer, a classic
I'm working with
magazine.
Modern Farmer. I seriously am. They're wonderful folks.
It's reprinted by the Smithsonian, I guess. And there's a picture.
That's what they give it away.
That's Harry Hall.
That's Jeff.
Yeah, that's Jeff in his younger days looking at tomatoes.
That's Uncle Harry.
This is in Cinnaminson, so I think it is. Oh, wow.
Yeah, there it is, Cinnaminson.
Cinnaminson. What was the name of the tomato that they created? There was a special tomato that they made that was what they made for Campbell's tomato soup. It's actually a great story. I think it's a fascinating story. The Rutgers tomato.
Oh,
Probably done with as an extension of Rutgers University.
Yeah. The JTD tomato, named after John Thompson Dorrance, later president of the company, released in 1918, medium-sized red tomato averaging in the 8 to 12 ounce range, uniform in shape, tasty, and most importantly, does not crack. The JTD.
Tomatoes crack?
Oh, yeah. You've seen that, haven't you? Where they kind of grow the skin. It's yeah.
Oh, like an heirloom tomato.
Yeah, they crack. Yeah, you don't
Where
want
they
that.
look like they're weirdly sewn together.
Yeah. Anyway, there you go. The history of tomatoes in New Jersey. Once
now
again,
I want some tomato soup.
I know, don't you? Now, what's the accompaniment, the natural accompaniment for a bowl of Campbell's tomato soup?
Grilled cheese.
Grilled cheese, yeah.
Of course. Okay. Gotta be.
We have
Gotta
that
be
most every
grilled
Friday night. That's
I have
grilled cheese night.
an $1,800 appliance that makes excellent tomato soup.
Wait, say more. Do you need your tomatoes to be uncracked?
No. I actually can make it with canned tomatoes, but I prefer to use the nice Italian Marzano tomatoes. It's the Thermomix. Do you know about the Thermo? Stacy introduced me to this, I think, and forced me to buy one.
I was
will not
always
be
jealous.
introducing you to any $1,800 tomato specific
Thank you. I also
appliances,
have,
Leo.
have
That's my
several
promise.
June ovens thanks to her. Stacy's, by
It
the way,
used to be a game on the show. Paris was to get Leo to buy things. But now that things aren't going so well in podcast land, we stopped doing it.
Leo's selling off all of the things that he bought. Let's see.
As you were starting to say, Stacy, I interrupted you.
Stacy's going to be on
Stacey.
Twit. When's that coming up, Benito?
Should be on Twit on the 28th.
28th of this month.
Oh, cool.
And let's not forget Stacy's book club, which continues. If you are a club Twit member, you know that we've been doing this for some months. And even though Stacy has departed this show, she says, I still want to do the book club. So Stacy's book club is coming up. When is that? February 8th. I'm reading the book right now. It's called The Water Knife by Paolo Bacigalupi, and it's really good so far. I'm really enjoying it. So February 8th.
What is it about?
I will
The
be
Water
hosting
Knife?
that. That's why I'm reading the book. It's about, I'm sorry, I crosstalk. It's about, well, so far, it seems to be about Las Vegas in the future, which has become one of those, like desert city things, kind of monoliths. And then arcology, that's the word they use. And so it's Las Vegas, because you can't live in Las Vegas because it's too hot. So it's become an arcology. And it's about the woman who really kind of runs it. Just kind of, anyway, it's very interesting. It's
nice.
Good. Yeah. And then I should mention, we are going to do an Inside Twit for club members tomorrow. 1:00, Lisa and I will do a State of the Nation, or a State of the Podcast, I guess. 1 p.m. Pacific tomorrow. For those of you who are in the club. If you're not in the club and you want to know more about this kind of stuff and the shows we do in the club, and we're going to do Samsung Galaxy Unpacked on January 17th, stuff like that, join the club. $7 a month. You get ad-free versions of all the shows. You get access to the Club Twit Discord, which is a wonderful community. By the way, Ant's in there right now, which is great. Hi, Ant. We also, he says he wants an immersion blender mayo tutorial. Okay, Ant. Deal. I'll show you how I've never buying mayo again. It's amazing. You also get special programming we don't put out anywhere else, like Stacy's Book Club. And most importantly, that $7 a month really supports what we do here. We just cannot survive on ad money alone, I'm sorry to say. So we need your help. I'm very pleased to say people have responded to this, and it's great. We've got 10,000 members now. We need 35,000. So, which is only 5%. I think Lisa would like to see that soon. The sooner the better. I think, what is the goal? By the end of the year, 35,000? I think so. twit.tv/clubtwit. Please give us
and get gifts. I belong to the club. I bought a subscription for son Jake.
Thank
your whole
you.
family there.
Yeah, Lisa did a blog post on the 12 ways to support.
It's good. She split it. In fact, you know what? It was an example of how to do TikTok, because she split it up into a whole bunch of little bits and then strung it out.
Yeah, and she did the same thing on Twitter, which was great. And it's on the Twit blog at twit.tv. And some of them don't cost any money. Anything you can do to help will be much appreciated. Joining the club is fantastic, though. I really love the club. During the Christmas break, I spent a lot of time in the Discord getting help from the advent of code experts in there. That was a lot of fun. Moving right along, should we do our AI? We've done much of it, but we can do the rest of it. Our AI segment. Let's. We don't have a. There's no.
AI. Hey, can't you see its eye?
That's the Brooklyn version. Hey.
We should do that for the Brooklyn and New Jersey.
AI.
Yes. AI.
From Politico, a new kind of AI copy can fully replicate famous people. The law is powerless.
You can take photographs of people and steal their souls. This should not be allowed.
Actually, the story is, when you read it, it's like, well, no, actually, Martin Seligman loves this idea. So Martin Seligman, who's 81, is a psychologist, very well known, apparently. He was pondering, according to Mohar Chatterjee, who wrote this story, he was pondering his legacy at a dinner party in San Francisco one late February evening. He got an email from a graduate student in China, Yukun Zhao. Zhao had created, without Seligman's knowledge, a virtual Seligman over 2 months by feeding every word Seligman had ever written into cutting-edge AI software. Zhao had built an eerily accurate version of Seligman himself, a talking chatbot. This is exactly what we were just talking about, right? Whose answers drew deeply from Seligman's ideas, whose prose sounded like a folksier version of Seligman's own speech, and whose wisdom anyone could access. Impressed, Seligman went, wow! Circulated the chatbot to his closest friends and family to say, does this sound like me? And his wife said, she was blown away by it. The bot is cheerfully named Ask Martin. Cheerful?
That's cute.
It was built by researchers in Beijing and Wuhan without Seligman's permission or even awareness. Seligman doesn't mind. He's 81. In fact, this answers the question, what's going to happen after I go? I think this is fine.
Yeah.
There are others, Belgian celebrity psychotherapist Esther Perel, who were not so happy. In Southern California, a tech entrepreneur created a chatbot of her scraping her podcasts off the internet. No one would ever scrape podcasts off the internet. He actually...
Like Belgian Dr. Phil?
I guess so. What's interesting is the guy who did this, Alex Furmansky, did it because he had a recent heartbreak, and he built it to counsel himself. So
that's kind of sad.
He says,
I'm gonna cry.
I know. Here's his Medium article. Instead of simply speaking with a therapist, I created an AI one. Actually, it's Substack.
It's cheaper.
Yeah, probably. So we come a long way from Eliza. I don't know if Perel was unhappy about this. She, like Seligman, the article goes on to say, she was more astonished than angry. She called it artificial intimacy. I think this is a good thing. Now, Congress may not. In fact, Congress has good old Amy Klobuchar has a bill, she's one of the co-sponsors, called No Fakes, the No Fakes Act, which is a...
I'm sure it stands for something.
It's of course an initialism. Let me look it up.
I want to be at the bar when the staffs come up with these names.
Here.
Yeah, I would like that job. I just like the job of making the little acronyms.
They're really retronyms because they start with what they want it to say, right? And then
of course, yeah.
It would penalize AI for generating someone's likeness without their consent. Chris Coons, Marsha Blackburn, Amy Klobuchar, and Tom Tillis. Amy, come on, just knock it off. The No Fakes Act. Let's download the text of the No Fakes Act and see what that stands for. Now you've got me. I really want to know. Title: To protect the image, voice, and visual likeness of individuals and for other purposes. Oh, get ready. Here we go.
Okay.
What does No Fake stand for? Nurture originals, foster art, and keep entertainment safe Act. Oh,
Well, that's wait. That's the no. Okay.
No
That is no fakes.
Yeah, it spells it. I mean, yeah, I guess you should have to give permission. Honestly, if somebody wanted to create a Leo Laporte, I don't think there's a problem with that.
No, it depends on how they use
What
it.
if the Leo bot became more popular than you, Leo? Would you have a problem with that?
But I'm at the end of
And
my career.
someone was making
it might
money
be
on
different
it?
for you, right? I'm at the end of my career, and I would be fine with that. But you might
The
not.
issue isn't making it. The issue is how you use it. If you use your image in an ad and you don't give permission, that's already illegal.
But it's already illegal, yeah.
If you use it for a commercial purpose rather than editorial
By the way,
purpose,
it's not illegal
that's
if I'm
already illegal.
dead, is it?
And it's not illegal if it's an editorial purpose.
I don't know. I have a mixed
It is
feelings.
illegal if you're dead for a certain period of time. Because, I mean, isn't that how the estates of famous
Until
people
it's
work?
cold?
Until you're
Isn't
cold and
it-
in your grave. The No Fakes Act has received support from multiple organizations across the arts and entertainment industries. The RIAA, of course, describes the use of unauthorized AI performances as theft. The Actors and Writers Union, SAG-AFTRA, and WGA, of course, one of the reasons they struck was they were concerned about AI. I don't know. I think I have the same position, which is
It's probably already illegal to do certain things.
and we got to be careful about too much regulation on this stuff because we want the innovation to happen. I think there's a benefit to it.
I don't know, but I mean, what innovation is happening by making an AI chatbot based on one person,
Well, you're probably right.
publicly scraping all of their
Yeah, you're probably right.
appearances?
But maybe the real benefit is that we learn something about it. Not necessarily that thing that they created is of that much value, but that
I mean, if you want to do something in private to learn something, I don't think anyone's stopping you from doing that. I think that probably obviously I don't know the text of this bill and whatnot, but I assume it has something to do with commercial use of these.
I think it just prohibits it outright, whether you make money on it or not. Good article. This is the one I would point people to. Yann LeCun, who is one of the founding fathers of LLMs and is very well known. He's at Facebook. He's Meta's chief AI scientist. Good interview with him in Wired. He scoffs, Wired writes, at his peers' dystopian scenarios of supercharged misinformation and even eventually human extinction. He's not a doomer. When his former
He's a voice of sanity in all of this.
I think he is. When his former collaborators Jeffrey Hinton and Yoshua Bengio put their names at the top of a statement calling AI a societal scale risk, LeCun refused to sign it. He said instead he signed an open letter to the U.S. President Joe Biden urging an embrace of open source AI, declaring it should not be under the control of a select few corporate entities. Exactly what I've been saying, but I somewhat...
Leo, here's a question.
Yeah.
Here's a question. When Lambda kind of leaked, the presumption of many was that, Facebook wouldn't do that. They didn't want to do that. And this open source stuff is accidental. I don't think so. I think LeCun is so religious on the point. Did Lambda leak or was it intentional?
I think it initially leaked and then Facebook released to the open source community a public version of it called Llama 2. So Llama. So I think Lambda's Google's. So they're all plays on.
That's the one that's alive,
right? Llama is widely used in open source. I have some open source tools that use it as a model. Who wrote this? I'm going to get his name. This is Stephen Levy, my good friend Stephen. Hi, Stephen.
Oh.
He says, when I sat down with LeCun in a conference room in Meta's Midtown office this fall, we talked about open source, why he thinks AI danger is overhyped, and whether a computer could move the human heart the way a Charlie Parker sax solo can. LeCun is a jazz fan.
What a Stephen thing to ask.
Yeah, it is.
Isn't it? I love
Yeah.
it. I love it. Stephen asks, why are so many prominent people in tech sounding the alarm on AI? To which LeCun says, some people are seeking attention. Other people are naive about what's really going on today. They don't realize that AI actually mitigates dangers. This is interesting, like hate speech, misinformation, propagandist attempts to corrupt the electoral system. At Meta, we've had enormous progress using AI for things like that. 5 years ago, of all the hate speech that Facebook removed from the platform, 20 to 25% was taken down preemptively by AI systems before anybody saw it. Last year, 95%, which I think is interesting. How do you view chatbots? Stephen asked. Are they powerful enough to displace human jobs? LeCun said they're amazing, big progress. They're going to democratize creativity to some extent. They can produce very fluent text with very good style, but they're boring. And what they come up with can be completely false.
He is a voice of reason.
Yeah. He says Mark Zuckerberg's very involved in the AI push at Meta. Why did Meta decide that Llama code could be shared or would be shared with others open source style? LeCun says, when you have an open platform that a lot of people can contribute to, progress becomes faster. I've been saying this all along. The systems you end up with are more secure. They perform better. Imagine a future in which all of our interactions with the digital world are mediated by an AI system. You don't want that system controlled by a small number of companies on the west coast of the U.S. He says, Americans may not care, but I can tell you this. In Europe, they won't like it. He said, they say, okay, well, this speaks English correctly, but what about French? What about German? What about Hungarian? Yeah, he is a proponent of open, and I think open is the right way to go. What's sad is that was OpenAI's initial thesis, and they come because of the cost.
They wouldn't be getting $1.8 billion now. Well, I started listening to a podcast called Mystery AI Hype Theater 3000 with Emily Bender, who's a co-author of the Stochastic Parents paper, and Alex Hanna. And the interesting thing is I look at LeCun as a voice of reason. They they puncture all the hype of the doomer boys, but they also try to puncture LeCun for being too enthusiastic. It's really hard to get the scorecard here of who stands where on AI these days.
Yeah. He says, I don't like the term AGI, artificial general intelligence, because there's no such thing as general intelligence. This is what we've grappled with. Intelligence is not a linear thing you can measure. Different types of intelligent entities have different sets of skills. How do you define it? What is general intelligence? What is intelligence? He says, eventually, there's no question machines will be smarter than humans. We don't know how long it's going to take. It could take years. It could be centuries.
And define smarter.
At that point, Levy says, do we have to batten down the hatches? No. I love this vision, by the way, of the future. We'll all have AI assistants. It'll be like working with a staff of super smart people. They won't be people. Humans feel threatened by this. I think we should feel excited. The thing that excites me the most is working with people who are smarter than me because it amplifies your own abilities. It's true. We like working. I like working with you too. You're smarter than me. That's what makes the world go round. Why would I not want an AI assistant who's also smarter than me, right? He says,
and you know what? It would follow orders, and it wouldn't suggest going to different lines in the rundown when you don't want to.
Exactly my point. There's no reason.
I would never watch TikTok.
There's no reason, LeCun says, to believe that just because AI systems are intelligent, they will want to dominate us. People are mistaken when they imagine AI systems will have the same motivations as humans. They just won't. We'll design them not to. That's what Ray Kurzweil always said, too. Anyway, I think it's very interesting.
Have you tried to get him on?
No, but that's good. Benito, make a note of that. Be good. Yann would be fantastic on this show.
I'll try.
Love to get him. Yeah. Here's a great piece in Tech Dirt. Mike Masnick nailing it again. The FTC continues to wade into copyright issues in AI without understanding anything.
I love that the kind of subhead is from the why is the FTC even looking at this department on the article.
He says, seriously, what the F is the FTC doing endorsing any of these bonkers points without pushing back on why they themselves are anti-competitive and problematic. Instead, the FTC endorses the untested idea that all training data must be licensed. It also argues that style mimicry is a concern when that's kind of the basis of almost all creators learning and building their own styles.
All training data must be licensed? Jeez.
The problem is that FTC brought in a bunch of creators. He said it was a very one-sided round table of people from the creative industries who more or less all agreed everyone should be forced to give them money at every opportunity.
This is Mike. He's the greatest.
He says, this is not part of the FTC's portfolio. It's not part of their mandate. They shouldn't be weighing in. And they're wrong. They're misguided. So I agree with him. This is not the FTC's concern. I'm not sure why they think it is. And by the way, you want to encourage competition? That's how you do it. You don't shut down AI. You encourage it. All right. I think that was our AI segment, unless you guys have a line number to fire at me.
Actually, this week, I think it was all crap.
There is, as I mentioned, we're going to do the, I don't know if it's worth doing, but we're going to do the Samsung Unpacked event, which is coming up. They announced that. CES is next week, right? So for some reason, Samsung, instead of announcing this at CES or concurrently with CES, is waiting and will announce the Galaxy S24 with AI. By the way, that's a big part of this. And they're going to do that at 10 a.m. Pacific. They're coming to California to do it, which is interesting. Last one they did was in Korea, and at an ungodly hour. The Samsung event will be at 10 a.m. on the Galaxy Unpacked event on the 17th.
I'm so hoping for a new Galaxy Chromebook.
That would be cool.
Didn't you just get a Chromebook?
No, I have. No, I returned. I return things sometimes.
Oh, you returned the Chromebook?
You returned
the Acer?
Why?
Yeah, I have an Asus that I hate.
Okay.
That's the expensive one.
But you got the Acer.
I tried to return it, and they didn't want it. They didn't want it back.
The Acer that Kevin Toffel recommended, right?
Yeah, and he said he was very unhappy for me. But yeah, it was a lemon. I think it was just a bad.
Oh, you just got a bad one, but you're not going to get another one.
No.
Well, Samsung is of course using the latest Qualcomm chip, which has a ML processing unit built into it, as do all iPhones nowadays. And Samsung is going to tout the fact that AI will be available with the push of a button. So I don't know if it'll be Bixby or something smarter, but we will cover that. We'll do that live right before Windows Weekly.
I hope it has a
2 weeks.
better name than Bixby.
I like the name Bixby. It's kind of nerdy, and it's like somebody would wear really dark glasses. And
it's like a 60s sitcom character.
Yeah,
Bixby.
It does feel
it's
like
Bill
that.
Bixby, yeah. Amazon's planning to make its own hydrogen-powered vehicles. Oh, no. Amazon's going to make hydrogen to power vehicles.
Okay.
Amazon, because I guess they use a lot of hydrogen-powered stuff
in their
warehouses,
stuff,
yeah.
Their forklifts and things, yeah.
So they partnered with hydrogen company Plug Power to install the first electrolyzer, which splits water molecules to produce hydrogen at a fulfillment center in Aurora, Colorado. It will make fuel for 225 forklifts.
That's pretty fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I thought it was.
Clean hydrogen is a little problematic. There's not like any green hydrogen really yet, but maybe this will help move that along.
Why? Because it consumes energy to make it, or
To make truly green hydrogen, says The Verge, Amazon would have to make sure its new electrolyzer runs on renewables. The company is looking into pairing it with renewable energy generated on site, but doesn't have a concrete timeline for when that might happen.
Most hydrogen is made with fossil fuels, which releases, obviously, the same stuff that your car releases. There's also a methane leak issue. So, yeah, hydrogen is not super clean at this point. Someday. Actually, solar splitting of water would be awesome, wouldn't it? Poor Elon Musk. According to Fidelity, which put money into Twitter, the value of Twitter has fallen 71% since he bought it. They're writing down the value of their shares.
Who all does he blame but himself?
I love that clip of him saying it's the advertiser's fault. He says the whole world will know.
The Earth will know.
The Earth will know. And then advertisers
What about Mars, Elon?
ended Twitter. Yeah. Okay. Wired is 30. Did you go to the party, Paris?
No, I did not get invited to the Wired 30th party. No, it's in San Francisco though, so
Yeah.
I don't feel bad about that.
30 years. It's hard to believe. It's changed a lot since 30 years ago when it first came out in the 90s. You could barely read it. Because it had this weird high contrast or low contrast page design and all that stuff. But then there's line 92, the podcast police. Oh, wait a minute. We already did that.
It would have fit in so much better now.
It would have just been perfect right now.
Oh, shucks.
The transition.
We can edit it around. I think we have come to the end of the line. Could that be?
Wait, you're not going to go to the super important one of don't forget to wish every horse in the Northern Hemisphere happy birthday, because all Northern Hemisphere horses have the recorded birthday of January 1st. That's super important and relevant.
So wait a minute. When they're a 2-year-old, it means they're not 2 years old from their birthday, but 2 years old from January 1st
January 1st.
Their birthday?
Yes.
What?
If that's how every horse that races at the Kentucky Derby is the same birthday, January 1st. So wish your local horses happy belated birthday.
Just one more reason. The whole thing is bizarre. I think we should do the Google changelog. You ready? Here we go.
The Google changelog.
There's nothing in the changelog.
I was going to say, what is in the changelog, Leo?
There's absolutely nothing in the change. We already did that's it. Thank you very much. Good night, everybody. When we come back, your picks of the week. Prepare them, if you will. You're watching This Week in Google. A little plea, by the way, just before we get back to the action, to take our survey. We do this every year, twit.tv/survey24. It's pretty quick, 10 minutes, but it helps us understand you, what you like, what you don't like. That's become very important. We want to make sure we're giving you the material you want, but it also helps us sell ads because we don't give advertisers tracking information. So that means we have to give them aggregate information like our audience is 58% male, is 28% college educated, whatever, those kinds of statistics. So help us out. Would you go to twit.tv/survey24 and take the survey. You have to the end of the month, but don't put it off. And I thank you in advance. We do this every year. It's very, very helpful. Paris.
I have 2 this week. One is the Failure Museum, which I believe is failure.museum, which is an online collection of failed companies and products. That's really fun. One of my friends, I think, had tweeted about it because they recently added a mug from Convoy, which was a recently imploded freight and shipping startup. But it's just a very fun little website cataloging all the failures from Juicero to FTX to Blockbuster and more.
We had these when I was a kid. Jarts. Lawn darts with metal spikes.
Banned by the Consumer Product Safety Commission.
And rightly so. These things, look at them. They're big, they're heavy, and they have sharp points.
Yeah.
Not good.
We had these when I was a kid. Jarts. We didn't know.
Jarts.
What do we know?
The Second Amendment requires that we are allowed to have.
Every nation.
I do think there's something in the Constitution that says we have to have Jarts.
We have a well-regulated Jart team. I love the FTX swag. That's kind of nice. I wouldn't mind having some of that.
Nice, yeah.
FTX Pool Party, limited edition, bobblehead of Samuel Bankman-Fried.
The Forbes magazine, we're using the cover.
Oh, look at
fantastic.
That.
So, by the way, there was a story I put in that just while we're on this, I'm not going to go to a line number, but his Anthropic investment is potentially going to turn out so well, all of his people could end up getting paid back.
Oh my God. So he wasn't such a scammer, huh?
Great for shareholder value.
Well, I think he invested himself, but anyway, like $3 to $4 billion, and it may. The law firm has already gotten a lot of money together, so they may be whole.
Here's my favorite, and I don't know why Mattel killed this. It's called Growing Up Skipper. You twist her arm and her breasts grow.
Oh, boy.
See her grow, slim and tall and curvy.
It says, for little girl Skipper, turn her arm all the way around clockwise. Then she's cute and young again.
Wow.
Not
Cute little
old
girl.
and sassy.
Tall, curvy teenager. You choose. It's the Jeffrey Epstein edition. Growing Up Skipper at the Failure Museum. This is so fun. I love this.
My second pick is equally as fun. It's a
Yes.
letter of recommendation for visiting your local medieval times.
Wait a minute.
On Friday, me and my recreational skee ball team went to the Lyndhurst, New Jersey castle. We all dressed up, and it was honestly a
Oh, my
fantastic
God.
time. We were mostly going there for the bit. We're like, oh, medieval times, it'll be very funny. But honestly, they put on a fantastic show. The horses danced. They jousted.
Are the knights cute?
The knights were cute also. There were female knights as well who were also cute.
good. Did
Everybody
you
there
Enjoy
was
your
fantastic.
turkey leg.
I did enjoy my turkey. Honestly, the food was fantastic. They had a tomato bisque soup to begin.
Yeah.
Then
And no utensils, right?
no utensils.
Eat with your
all
hands?
with your hands.
All slurp.
Yeah,
I love
chicken leg
medieval
was
times.
good.
I've been to the medieval times in Southern California.
There was
did
a
you wear the
falconer?
little hat, the crown?
Oh, we did wear the hat.
Yeah.
I'll
Are there
find a photo
pictures?
for you guys.
Yeah.
Yes, there are. We dressed up also.
I like
Which I think is
you
an
and your
important part
friends.
of this.
I really think
Yeah.
that's awesome. You have a good group of friends. That's fantastic.
Yes, we here.
How do you
Do they
know
have beer?
them? Are they college buddies? Are they just people you met on the street?
They're friends. Just I know through.
Journalists, maybe?
Technically, all of these people are on my recreational skee ball team.
Yeah, you
called
mentioned that.
Bourgeois Ski.
Yeah. Bourgeois
which
Ski?
is Bourgeois Ski. We play in the fall. I know them originally, a couple of them through journalism, but the rest don't work in journalism. Here, I'm posting.
I've
some
seen your
photos in
skee
Discord
ball
right now.
pictures on your Instagram, and I
Yes,
didn't realize
yeah.
this was a serious thing for you. This is
Oh, I mean, serious is an interesting word. We are a famously losing skee ball team. This
Is
year
there a
we
league?
won 0 games.
Is there-
Yes, there's a league. There's a league that we play in every fall during the fall season. It's called Volo. Is the
Skeezin'.
actual?
Did you catch
sport.
that? The skeezin'.
Yes, thank you. During the season, we compete. Last year, when I first joined this skee ball team about 3 years ago, the Bourgeois Ski had never won a game. I will say the first 2 years I was there, we did win multiple games. Whether or not that was related to me, I guess, is a good question, because this year we won 0. But a lot of people were traveling for weddings.
Oh, no. So this skee ball game, for those of you who don't know, you roll a ball up an incline and you try to get it into the target areas. It's kind of like rolling darts, and you get points.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's something you'll often see at arcades or, in a corner of a bar.
Is
You
it
try
hard?
to get them in various. It is. Well, it's hard to be good at it, because the thing is, it's a very specific skill. You both have to roll the ball up with precision, but then give it the right amount of lift, and it changes depending on the machine. So it's kind of hard to practice.
Do you have
because
uniforms for your skee ball team?
No, but we for next year want to make custom Letterman jackets, which I think would be very fun.
I do see some of these teams have outfits.
Yeah, no, they give us Volo Sports is like a intramural recreational sports
This is
league
such
in New
a
York City.
smart
They give
business.
us
This is what you
little
need.
T-shirts.
It makes me want
Did
to
you
move
notice
to
in the
this.
chat?
I love it.
There's also Paris as the medieval dining room wench.
Yes, I did post photos
What?
of us going wench
It's in
mode.
the chat. Yes, wench mode.
I did dress up.
It's perfect.
And my outfit was pretty good, honestly.
It's very good. It's very good. You
Only
guys have
one
such
of those
fun.
things I had to buy. The next one, you can
The
see
next
my
one.
full outfit if you
Next one.
want.
There you go.
Right next to the knight in
There's
shining
full
armor.
wench mode.
Oh, that's so
I'm wearing
cute.
a long skirt
It is.
and a little sash, and I've got a leather little top. The leather top is the one thing I bought from a local.
I was going to say, if you owned that, I would be a little worried.
No, everything else I didn't know. Everything else was normal.
Yeah. This is cute. This is so cute. So
It was a fun time. We
must
were
have
the
been-
only people dressed up at medieval times.
Well, the only
other than
adults.
the workers.
I'm the only
Do
adults.
they have beer?
Oh yes, they have alcohol.
Oh, good. Oh, good.
We had a
Portion of irony-seeking adults versus children and families?
I would say there were a lot more children and people celebrating birthdays than I would have thought. They had a segment where they went through and announced all the birthdays, and it lasted 5 to maybe 10 minutes. Although I think it could have been, if you're buying a group package, you can put in like a little message. And obviously, if we had had the foresight to do that, I'm sure someone in our group would have celebrated a fake birthday for one of us.
That's
as
cute.
far as like humiliation. But honestly, it was a great show too. There was a falconer. A falcon soared throughout the stadium and did little tricks.
And you came
Highly
to New
recommend.
Jersey.
I did come to New Jersey. We took an Uber from Manhattan to the castle.
It's better in Jersey, I think. The one in Southern California is full of failed actors, so they really ham it up. It's kind of Jeff.
We got
Oh yeah, the
Broadway.
New Jersey one is unionized as well.
Oh, it's
So
SAG
go Union
after.
Labor.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Or is it the Steelworkers Union? What is the union?
I do think it might be SAG after. I think
Yeah.
it's Performers Union.
Yeah, performer. Interesting. We're all equity here. Jeff, your pick of the week.
It's the first one of the year. There's just not much. So I hate demographics, and I think that's the ruin of society, is putting people into buckets. But Axios is insisting that there's a new generation of.
Oh no.
The oldest are 13. The youngest will be born in the coming year. The first generation born entirely in this century.
Okay.
And so they're
Okay.
going to be miserable young people who are going to be mad at us for pandemics and climate and all of that. And they're going to be unhappy.
I think there's probably a competition among blogs to be the first to name the generation, and
think
clearly
so, yeah.
Axios has scooped everybody else on this one. They're not the first generation to be born in this century. This century's 23 years old.
I know.
So that doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's got to be.
The first entirely online cohort? No.
Maybe they were born of parents that were born in the century.
Yeah, I think that's more like it.
It's more like it.
The
yeah.
children of millennials is what it is. Born between 2010 and 2024, it is expected to be the largest in history at more than 2 billion. But of course, that's just because the world is getting
Meanwhile,
bigger.
everybody's predicting, there's stories this week too about how population is going to peak and go down.
Yeah.
Everybody says
Yeah.
that.
Mostly the children of millennials. They are the successor to Gen Z. That's why we have to go to Greek letters. We're out of Roman letters. So from Gen Z to Gen Alpha.
We started at X though, so
Yeah, we did start at the end
Yeah,
of
we
the
could
alphabet.
just go back.
We could start with A.
Why
all
did we
right.
start with X?
because we're the coolest generation.
Well, no, start
Oh,
with
yeah,
baby
I was-
boomers. No, baby boomers.
Yeah,
was-
boomers.
Okay, I know, but as far as letters go,
Was that the next after baby boomers? It was Gen X?
Yeah.
And then Gen Y and then Gen Z.
No, Gen Y is the millennials.
Yeah. Huh. So these alphas are mostly the children of millennials, which is about right. Yeah.
What are you guys?
What do you mean, you guys? Me?
No, not you. I know you're the old part.
I'm a baby boomer.
I'm
you and I
a
are
Gen
baby
Xer.
boomers.
I'm a Gen Xer.
He's a Gen X, and you're Gen Y,
Paris.
probably, Paris, right?
I'm cusp, depending on what
Cusp.
you depending on what you ask. I'm either millennial or Gen Z.
Right in the border there. Well, there you have it. That was exciting. Don't forget to get the audio
sorry.
edition of Jeff's book, which is equally exciting. You'll find it on Audible and elsewhere. It's Jeff reading his own
And it
Beautiful
will
book.
freak you out that I speak like a human being. But you can speed it up so it's normal and you won't get a headache from it.
GutenbergParenthesis.com. That's also where you can get his newest book, magazine, Object Lessons magazine, the Gutenberg Parenthesis. And he's working on a new one, kids. He never stops. Just like
Always
the people.
writing.
Web we weave.
What's it called? The Web We Weep?
The web we weave.
A weave. That makes more sense. The Web We Weep. That's the book I'll write. Jeff Jarvis is, ladies and gentlemen, the director of the Townite Center for Entrepreneurial Journalism at the Craig Newmark Graduate School of Journalism at the City University of New York for now. Emeritus, deorbiting.
Soon.
You got through August. Don't rush it. Don't rush it.
Yeah.
Paris Martineau is working hard on a super secret project at theinformation.com. If you're not yet a subscriber,
That's true.
not too late to subscribe.
Is it
so that you can
scheduled,
read it.
Paris? Do we know when?
I cannot confirm or deny
not even that.
anything.
No
But
deadline.
I do have to take some calls immediately after this podcast.
Ooh.
So do with that information
Do they give
what you will.
Do they give you a deadline?
It depends. Once like the reporting and stuff is there, certainly we'll schedule something for it. I mean, I think a large part of what my editor has to do is be like, all right, Paris, time to come out of the rabbit hole now.
Stop reporting. It's
Yeah.
enough.
But that's an editor's
That's
job.
so cool. It's so cool. Well, I can't wait to see it. And of
Yeah,
course,
I'll let you guys know.
Theinformation.com is well worth subscribing to. I do. So does Jeff. We really love this.
Yep.
It is one of the great sources
we converted
of
Jeff.
information. It's actually, honestly, it's much more useful for people covering technology than the Times or even Bloomberg. It's really good. Thank you for that. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. And for you Club Twit members, thank you so much for making this show possible. To our advertisers as well. We do This Week in Google on Wednesdays, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern. That's 2100 UTC. Sorry, 2200 UTC. The website is twit.tv/twig. We do stream on YouTube during the live show. So if you want to watch us do the show, you can go to youtube.com/twit. Whenever a show is in production, you'll see a live stream there. After the fact, download an episode from the website or go to YouTube. There's a This Week in Google channel on YouTube if you like the video. You can also subscribe to audio or video on your favorite podcast client. We like Pocket Casts, but pick the one you like and subscribe. That way you'll get it automatically the minute it's available. Don't forget the survey. If you haven't yet, join Club Twit. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you next time on This Week in Google. Bye-bye.
Hey, I'm Rod Pyle, editor-in-chief of Ad Astra Magazine, and each week I join with my co-host to bring you This Week in Space, the latest and greatest news from the final frontier. We talk to NASA chiefs, space scientists, engineers, educators, and artists, and sometimes we just shoot the breeze over what's hot and what's not in space, books, and TV. And we do it all for you, our fellow true believers. So whether you're an armchair adventurer or waiting for your turn to grab a slot in Elon's Mars rocket, join us on This Week in Space and be part of the greatest adventure of all time.